We're live after a very, very short delay. We're here to kick off Montreal Scrabblefest 2024, brought to you by Let's Play Scrabble in partnership with Word Game Players Organization, WGPO. We're really excited. I am joined by Emmett Brosowsky. Emmett, nice to have you
Hello,
here
hello.
with me tonight. And we've got an absolute banger in the first round tonight.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be here with you too, and I'm very excited because we've just found out that our first round matchup is a battle of the Titans. I think we've got Adam Logan going first against Josh Sokol. That's kind of the dream matchup for me, Will.
Yeah, hard to come up with a better matchup.
Of course.
Frankly, I don't even want to question the logic that led to those two playing in round one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna thank the organizing team at Let's Play Scrabble for that matchup. And we are going to be hopping back and forth between the WoW lexicon and the Collins lexicon. So starting off with a Collins game here. And this is truly, Adam Logan definitely can lay claim to be one of the strongest players in the world. And of course, Josh Sokol should need very little introduction for most of us, our
Yeah.
beloved content creator, Axter Typo, and our reigning North American Scrabble champion, Emmett.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, this is kind of a battle of the eras, even though Adam's still around. But we've got, I mean, one of the titans of Scrabble on an all-time basis, and one of the modern titans of the game too. So, yeah, I'm just really excited to see where these players' styles take them in this game, and I'm hoping we get a good one.
Yeah, I do think that Josh is not going to be afraid if the situation
Not at all.
arises to pull some shenanigans, if he thinks that it can help him get an edge on Adam in this game. I just think in general, Josh, such a strong player, so many amazing skills in his skill set. I would say still this early into his sort of
Yeah.
switch over to Collins, have to give Adam a little bit of the upper hand in the matchup for now. Give Josh a year or however long, and he's going to get into that, close to even level. But Josh knows how to play as an underdog, and he is definitely going to look to apply pressure to Adam when he can.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the word battle game or the word knowledge battle is going to skew in Adam's favor. But I mean, I've seen Josh play. You've seen Josh play. He is one of the greatest strategic players of the modern age. And he can do a lot with a little. Not that I'm saying his word knowledge is his command of the words that are in both lexica is superb. Um, but that strategic acumen I think is going to be close to making up for his deficiency when it comes to the dictionary.
Yeah, for sure. A gap that's going to be closing every passing day. And I think the players
Of
are
course.
at the board and ready to get this thing underway. So here you see, we'll get those nameplates corrected. Our producer, Josh Greenway's evidence is evidence of his presence here felt on the broadcast. I assure you that is Adam on the left and Josh on the right. Again, if you've watched Scrabble streams in the past, these two players, you're probably familiar with them already. If you haven't watched any Scrabble streams in the past, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. And we hope that Emmett and I are going to do justice to the extremely high level of Scrabble play we're about to see.
Of course, yeah. I mean, thankfully we've got the benefit of using engines to see what moves they're going to make, but these guys both play at such a high level that any game between the two of them is going to bring something close to fireworks. I'm just hoping we've got one that stays tight throughout the game.
Yeah, as long as
Um,
the tiles cooperate, really, that's all we need for a potential banger here. So
it's very true. And excuse me. Also, Will, it's this is a 15 game tournament, which sounds long, but on the scale of Scrabble, it's relatively short. Every game is super impactful for the final the final rankings. So I think
yeah,
this one is going to be big.
it's a really good
And I
point.
think
You
we're
typically, oh, sorry, yeah, I was just going to say you
oh
typically would see double that length for a national
right.
championship. So every game really does get some extra pop. But I mean, you were going to cue us in.
Yeah, let's go. I think we're ready to get going.
All right. So Adam going first. The handshake, you love the sportsmanship. I feel like Scrabble does have a pretty good culture of sportsmanship compared to some of the, I don't know, mind sport pastimes that you see where it feels like there are more spirited rivalries between the top
Very
players. I
true.
feel like a lot of the top players genuinely like each other in Scrabble, and I definitely think that there's a healthy respect between these two. I don't really see any kind of gamesmanship happening here.
I
So
agree. Especially in the context of some of the recent events that have gone down in the chess world. Wow, and it's a great start for Adam, I do have to say.
yeah, and look how fast, just the speed. Look at this clock. That took him 16 seconds to identify the bingo on his rack and play it. And this
Yeah, of
is not an everyday word for sure, Emmett, but it is a word
course not.
that Adam is going to see and play instantly. Relevo. You can see the definition scrolling underneath the board if ever you're curious. Um, what does that word mean? And you can see that Adam instantly playing this word and getting off to a huge start.
Yeah, and this is a word that looks pretty obscure for most of our non-expert viewers, but for these experts, this is one of those high probability words that they've drilled over and over and over again. So wouldn't be so. It's not so surprising to see Adam pull that out very quickly.
It's worth
Although his
it.
his redraw is very clunky. Although we'll see if Josh sticks an F in space.
That's a great point. So again, lexicon in use here. Collins, the worldwide lexicon in use. You can see obviously this tournament taking place in Montreal, which is in North America, but outside of North America, that is the standard. So Josh, the current North American champion in the North American lexicon, he's moved on to test his medal in the international lexicon, where Adam has been more active for quite a while. So to Emmett's point, you can see it's almost as if Josh is he has that WAF set up as if
He
he's
really
expecting
does.
a
He wants a
cue,
cue.
Emmett.
Exactly. That's a great point. Yeah. Again, that's one of those words that you probably don't know unless you've studied it. But WAQF is Colin's only word for NWL viewers. Yeah, sometimes, well, I wish I could play that. I've often wished I could use my one time in a game of Scrabble to play rock, but no can do.
Yeah. Yeah, every keyword that doesn't have a U in it gets an incredible outsized importance compared to other words in the dictionary, just because that Q is so very difficult to use when you do not have a U. So words like WAQF, WAQF, become, as you said, often, if you don't have them available to you, you wish you would.
Yeah.
And yeah, just an interesting point. Relevo with this spelling, with the two I's, does not take an S hook. There is a variation
Ooh,
of this word with,
with the E.
instead of this I, and maybe it would be good for me to pioneer the little telestrator. If you were to turn this
Beautiful.
I into an E, that word would take an S, but the word that Adam played does not. So there you go. The F is played but tantalizingly, Emmett, not in a spot where Adam can use it.
It's true, although I mean the W out in space isn't Kowali good with if Adam had an eye on his rack, right? That's a
Oh, it's
super
good.
low prob, isn't it?
Oh, but it's good without the eye, and that is an
Really, in
amazing.
Collins.
Yes, yes, that is
Wow.
an amazing point by you. That now Adam actually has the ability. I'm not sure where he would play it. This insane word with two W's in it. You could
Have you
play
ever
it
seen that on
there,
the board
or
well?
you could slot it over one. I don't think I have ever seen it. So that's
Yeah.
the fact that, yes, that is a Q word with no U in it, but I do expect Adam to see this. But there is some, and
100%.
you see
He's
there
he's
it
lined it
is.
up.
Look at that, beautiful.
And the
So
placement is actually very important, right? Because there is that eye hook, those
very
with
much
nine
so.
in the bag, right? Like that is it's pretty impactful here. I think I would be inclined up a bingo to place it in the more defensive position, right?
Yeah, so Emmett is suggesting that placing it here with the first W in this spot is more defensive because if you were to imagine this word one space further, now you're talking about really lucrative hooks being available. If you just happen to get the right letter, the S or the I, in the right spot, you've given up a huge hook that didn't exist. So I
Yeah.
completely agree with your assessment, Emmett, and we'll see. Adam is, I would say, a sort of a chameleon like player. He is very
Mm.
capable of being aggressive when the situation calls for it, but I do think of him as being tremendously gifted as a defensive player. He's going to come up with nuances like that and make the right choice here.
Yeah, I mean, but this is kind of a big spot early. I mean, Adam's got to be, thanking his lucky stars that Josh stuck that W out in space because without that, I mean, he's not left with very many good decisions to get rid of that Q.
Yeah, totally. I apologize there for the score. It should be updated with Josh's 18 points as he plays Waif. You can actually see there's just noting that there is not only an S hook as you would normally expect on any noun or verb, but there's also a T hook on this word. I think that's a bit of a word knowledge check if Josh knows that T hook or not. And there you
And
do
it comes
see
down. I
the more
mean,
defensive placement. Great call by you, Emmett, on that one.
thank you. Yeah, look, I mean, this is the beauty of Scrabble. We're 3 turns into the game, and there's a word that, Will, I'm going to compliment you, one of the best word knowledge players in the world has never seen on the board. So, that's why I love this game, Will.
Yeah, that's and you see the definition. It's the singer. This a
Of
singer
Kowal.
of
Beautiful.
Kowali is a Kowal. So there you go, and there's the first blank finding its way
Wow.
onto Adam's rack. Not great tiles to go with it, but you're always
No,
happy to see that blank.
100%. Yeah, and we'll see what Josh is going to do here. Um, how confident do you think he is in the S hook on Kowal, Will?
He didn't challenge that
It's true.
word. And that makes sense again, just because a word like this, even though it looks insanely obscure, this is a word that would be right at the very top of your list of words to
Right.
learn when you're just starting out as a competitive player. Again, the Q without the U in it, words like that are so valuable in cases like this. Just think, what would Adam have done to get rid of the Q on that turn if not this word? The difference between knowing that word and not was enormous
I
there.
mean,
And we do see
100%.
Josh, we do see Josh play hazy. It looks like a great play, Emmett.
Yeah, it looks right to me too. 50 points, just blowing up a rack and scoring big, and underratedly obscuring the hook on Kowal. I mean, maybe if there were a slightly worse option to play the Z off elsewhere, maybe it might be worth leaving that S hook on the board. Although it's not really a bingo lane, and given the circumstances, and Josh draws rebuses, doesn't he?
Yeah, rebuses, and I think
Um,
even an anagrams in there. But either way, rebuses looks like it'll be a really good play if he gets an opportunity to get it down with waifs. So
and the uh,
this
the
could
other
get
the
knotted
other
up.
nice thing about hazy for him is that it blocks off the potential misstep of pluralizing Relivo. Um,
Yes. Although, if he
so,
tries his anagram and look at his rack, he's setting it up. This is a
oh
valid
wow,
anagram of rebuses. So, sub-seer, that word that Josh has spelled out, it's valid if he tries to play it in this incredibly tantalizing spot, which, by the way, would put a
oh,
B
triples the B.
just where he wants it. Well, now he's going to have that
That may save him.
decision. Yeah, he's going to have that decision taken away. We'll have to figure out, maybe after the game we'll talk to the players and find out if Josh was considering playing Subseer
Right.
with the phony S hook of Relivo, but instead he's now for sure going to bingo in a spot that actually creates a valid word and fight his way back.
Mm, that's interesting. Oh, and Morris Greenberg in the chat makes actually a great point that Adam could kind of intuit based on Josh's play of Waif that he maybe wasn't holding an eye, so he wasn't too worried perhaps about that eye hook on Kowal. That's a great
Mm,
point.
interesting.
Um,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
true.
Well,
Was there an especially, great play? And we're gonna see, really interesting choice here by Josh. So Josh is electing to play sub seer for
Hmm.
74 points here. He could have played, we know
Right.
he saw Rebus's, and he could have
Yeah.
played Rebus's for 80.
For
This
more.
looks like kind of a defensive minded choice by Josh here. And
Yeah.
it might
I
pay some dividends for him.
I mean, what does Subseer do that Rebus's doesn't? Rebus's sticks the S in the triple lane, with that, going down on the middle of the board, which
Yeah,
is going to
true.
be a lot easier to hit than the U. But Subseer also um, forks the board, in a sense, in that he's opening up both of the bottom right and bottom left quadrants of the board, where Rebus's makes it a lot more difficult to access that bottom right quadrant. Um,
Yeah, I also
so,
think there's also kind of a golden rule. Rebus's, if you actually imagine where it would be on the board, it places an E in this spot, which is
mm,
literally the worst letter that you could put in a
very
spot like
true.
this. You would have words ending in ES, ED, ER, almost any of those very reasonable 8-letter words would hit through those two double word scores for a 4x bonus. So, in fact, Josh's play there, had he played Rebus's for 6 more
He's getting hit
points,
very hard.
Adam is getting hit right now with a bingo. So it's crazy because through that R, he would have been able to play the bingo of taperoid. And
Hyperroid,
through
yeah.
this V, he would have been able to play vapidity as well.
Mm,
So multiple options available for Adam, blocked in one go by Josh's defensive positioning. So that is a really big. Just a great job by Josh to give himself
very,
a
very
chance.
savvy.
Just
100%.
realizing that potentially after a play like jog, that maybe Adam is sitting on something strong, or else he wouldn't open a triple in this manner, right? So
Right.
maybe there's some read that Josh had there.
Yeah, and for a player less experienced than Adam, having multiple bingo spots blocked in one move is might be frustrating, but I think he's totally unfazed by this, and we'll see if he finds Ditz, which seems to be his best play in the position, especially after Josh has just drawn a random rack.
Yeah, I think Ditz is certainly a strong play. The idea of just playing right into this Z has a couple merits. It scores actually, there's not that many places for Adam to score that much better than that
True.
on this board. Surprisingly, the reason that's surprising is that there's a triple open that you would think in
Right.
general, having a nice big triple open is a way to score points, but there's not much happening there. So Ditz scores well, and it opens a couple letters out in space that maybe Adam will need to get a bingo down on this next turn. So I do think that's likely to be his choice. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we see any other? Is there any merit to playing Tiz in that spot instead and keep an extra decent
Ah,
bingo tile? I'm not sure I like it, Emmett.
I don't think so either. I mean, from a pure scoring perspective, you can like consider DAP maybe. That's overlapping AHA and AL. But as we know, the duplicated I is one of the worst tiles you can have to duplicate. I think it's worth something like -7 or -8 points. So yeah, I really don't think Adam's gonna sacrifice that equity for the extra score boost, especially in a game that's so close right now.
Yeah, I definitely
Um,
agree. I agree that we are incredibly likely. It would take a lot more points than that
I agree.
to motivate Adam to keep the two eyes on his rack, given that he can get 28 points with Ditz and 28 points with
Oh,
DAP,
that's
keeping both
right.
eyes. There is
Uh,
no major upside to it. So I do think we're going to see an eye get played, and this feels like a standard play. Nicely done by Adam to consider a bunch of probably he considered every
mm,
option that we just mentioned and just sanity
yeah,
checked them a little bit before arriving at this one.
it was a. I will say it was a surprisingly long turn for Adam.
True.
With what seemed like a relatively easy position. Obviously he wants to do his due diligence, but I'm interested to know what he was thinking about and what he was considering. Um, and yeah, we'll see Josh make the standard vowel dump play, scoring 15, leaving himself with a nice bingo rack or nice-ish bingo rack.
It's pretty nice if he can manage to draw a couple consonants, low point consonants in
Right.
there. He's definitely going to be in good shape, and he's probably going to need it because Adam drew certainly well enough to get something down here. I'm
Yeah.
sure. So in case it's kind of obstructed, but there is an S hook right here with Shah. So any bingo ending in
Right.
S will fit in this spot. It doesn't immediately look like there's a good S hook on the board, but there is one right there. So a couple bingos possible for Adam in that spot, Parkins and Kirpins. But I wonder if Josh will have
Right.
anything in response, really. I'm not sure.
Ooh. Um, Nothing immediately comes to mind. Although I think an option worth thinking about for Adam, maybe if only for a moment, is this play of kinda through the D in the top right, getting the K triple doubled and scoring something like 40-ish points. Um, leaving himself with a superb leave, but he's just going to go for the bingo,
Yeah,
which, which seems reasonable.
I just accidentally gave him his points early just because I wanted to see what
You were
Josh
sure he
might
was going to do
might
that.
have. Yeah, and it turns
Okay,
out that I didn't have to undo my progress there as he ends up playing his
good.
highest scoring bingo. No surprise from Adam to
Yeah,
spot that. And he goes back up, but again, this game is definitely retrievable for Josh. There's
100%.
still plenty of goodies lurking. Second blank is there. This looks like a hold. You can see that Adam hasn't drawn his tiles, and Josh is going to neutralize the clock. The challenge rule here, unless told otherwise, is just a 5 point challenge rule. So
Right.
Josh has every incentive to give this word a look if he's remotely unsure, and it is going to be valid, Emmett. So there you go.
Yeah, and I mean that's the big difference, honestly, between the two lexica, aside from the massive, word difference. But the much more forgiving challenge rule in Collins is definitely going to work to Josh's favor in this game. I think he's going to be able to try at least to call Adam out on whatever potential missteps he might have. Although he seems to be grimacing, he maybe doesn't quite like the decision to doubt Adam's word knowledge in this position, as Adam looks to be drawing a nice rack post bingo.
Yeah, it does look pretty nice. He's going to have some good scoring power here. We'll see if he draws two more consonants, and that might slow him down
It would be tough.
slightly. But this is a
Yeah,
nice, very nice mix of scoring power, bingo tiles there. Oh, that looks like a great
yeah, that looks beautiful. I mean,
situation.
that is kind of an optimal rack to draw after bingoing, wouldn't you say?
It's
Uh,
good. It's good because I mean you've got your options here of hex
yeah,
or
it's beautiful.
fax in one
Right,
of these two spots. I think fax FAX in that spot is going to give you a little bit better bingo tiles, but it looks like
right.
hex might be slightly higher on the scoreboard. So you've got you're going to be scoring well and leaving something good on your next turn. It's a really good situation to be in for Adam with a good sized
Right.
lead already.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what Josh decides to play here. It seems like he's thinking about just playing EM, maybe underneath PA and Parkins, um, which would be interesting. Um,
Yeah, I
okay,
feel like at a deficit, he might want this to stay open. This is
I
kind of a
agree.
nice threat for him to leave available, especially with, he could play something into this K that would score pretty well.
And
Maybe he
open
will end up playing EM. I also thought maybe UNCA. This is
on
kind of a
CA.
nice, the reason that I like this play, even in comparison to some of the others, Emmett, is that playing from the U is not easy. A
No,
6 letter word with a U is not going to be that easy to find. A 4 letter word to the K will be available on a lot of turns. So I think if you
it's
have
true.
close options, opening the board like this while you have a competitive play down from the U makes a lot of sense. Just look how much
Right.
open space that created. And
Right.
honestly, Adam is going to play facts really quickly, as we had pointed out, leaving really strong tiles. And he himself is looking to bingo through some of those tiles that Josh just opened.
Josh draws kind of a tough 5 consonant draw, with the Y. So you could do with that what you will. But I agree with your point there, Will, because he's going to have so many more redraws that hit the K than he does that are going to hit the U. So I definitely agree with that reasoning. This is going to be also interesting for Josh to see what he can come up with. Um, yeah, I mean, he needs to score. Um,
Just giving Josh
this
giving Adam his extra 5 points from the challenge, just making sure we're up
good,
to
good,
date.
good.
So I think we have the scores correct now. Appreciate that heads up. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, this is tough. Josh's tiles are clunky. He's got too many tiles that score more than 1 point on the same rack
Yeah,
together. It tends to be usually if you have one of those letters and surround it with a nice mix of low point tiles and vowel consonant balance, you can get away with it. You can bingo a lot of times, but every
right.
successive 3 or 4 point tile after the first that finds its way onto the rack, it's going to be tougher to have a lot of flexible options. And he's going to be in some trouble here. And I feel like Adam has, I wonder, I'm just looking through some of the, hideous through the eye is a Collins word. So
Right.
he's hoping to get a bingo down, and he has at least one sort of in mind, I'm sure, that he's going to be playing next turn.
It's also, I mean, given the game position, it seems like a spot Josh is very unlikely to block, which is accurate as he's, going to even open up another bingo lane, arguably, and scoring very nicely with Bendy. Although I don't feel too great personally about the DGM leave.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was referring to before with those, collections of high point tiles that just don't
Right.
mesh that well together. Hopefully, for Josh's sake, he can draw. Well, he's drawn actually kind of nicely to them, but unfortunately,
Interesting.
not quite well enough, I don't think, to
Mm,
get a bingo down here. And Adam finds his only playable bingo of Heediest,
right.
and he's widening his lead here, really through very little fault of Josh's.
It's very true. Yeah. I wonder what we're going to see from Josh now. It seems like, you know, his most important consideration here is, how am I going to allow myself to bingo again? I mean, obviously Josh is wow, and that's an incredible draw from Adam. He's going to have donative to the E in the bottom left if that's not blocked, and
I would be
that might be the
surprised if it was. I mean, at this point, Josh has every incentive to leave this spot open. He wants to be able to
yep,
use it himself. So I could easily see him. He's got some
yeah,
plays. He could play Mouton or something in this spot to score decently and open more space like this. Um,
yeah,
Not sure what he's going to do, but I'm almost positive that it is not going to be blocking this E, and we're going to see Adam pile on even harder
I
with
agree.
the bingo of donative or donative, however you would say this. So
Yeah,
Adam is many things as a Scrabble player, an incredible strategist, but definitely his word knowledge is in that true grandmaster class where he is just
of
never missing
course.
that word.
Yeah, and that's again, that's one of those words that you'll see pretty early in your studying, and that I'm sure Adam has seen hundreds of times, in his Scrabble tenure. Maybe I can't see Josh playing any of the like OUGHT words that would block that spot. It just doesn't seem like he would ever make that position, like the what he would perceive as a positional sacrifice in this spot. Um, yeah, so Josh is going to be in a world of hurt. Although he's done crazier things in the past.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a really nice scoring option, like this in a vacuum is a great scoring spot. If you can get
Does
the
look
right
good.
combination of consonants in here, there's going to be a lot of points on offer, and that might tempt him if he had such a play. but he really
Yeah.
doesn't, unfortunately. With these tiles, he just doesn't have a play that hammers that spot nearly hard enough to
Right.
take that trade-off of blocking the E. Obstructing the E at all is going to be something that he really wants to avoid doing. So
Right.
in order for him to do it, it would have taken a really high scoring play. He just doesn't have one like that. So we're going to see. I wonder where he's potentially getting ready to play gun.
That's interesting. I don't see such a. Hmm.
He must have some kind of idea behind this
Right.
that we'll do our
That I
best.
just don't
Oh,
see.
he's
Yeah.
going to play. Oh, I thought he was going to consider playing gunk, which might have made sense. Gunk in this spot makes sense
Oh, with an
to put a
IBIN.
G to put a
Right.
G here and try to draw an ing bingo. So that was probably where Josh was considering playing that, but ungod is the play, a solid one from Josh, I might add, but it does nothing to
True.
address that open E. And Adam now gets to not only score a boatload of points, but block off the triple lane in the process.
Yeah, and I think Josh's winning chances may be down the hatch in this
They've
one.
taken a hit. Yeah, they've taken on some
Certainly.
water. They've taken on
Yeah.
some water here.
The
But
live
that's
odds are
Scrabble,
not
right?
good.
Yeah,
That's
live
Scrabble.
odds. How much would you win if you put a $1 bet on Josh to win here?
God, I mean,
What odds
given that
would
he
you be
didn't
given?
didn't just draw a bingo to the U, I'd give him something like, I don't know,
Do I
150 to
get
1
like,
maybe.
yeah, I would hopefully get to be a very wealthy man if I put like a sizable
Oh, I
sum of
agree.
money on Josh to win this
Of
game.
course. Yeah.
But there's a reason for that, and it's that Adam Logan, just again for the record, a multiple time U.S. champion in both the
Of
North
course.
American and Collins divisions, also a former world champion. He's got every trophy in the Scrabble world in his trophy case, and yeah, really, it's really a treat to watch him play. So hopefully we'll get some more games from Adam here over the course of this weekend. And Emmett, you were saying it at the outset of the broadcast, only 15 games in the main
Right.
event here. It's going to fly by.
Very, very true. And each game is quite impactful. So I'm going to be interested and excited to see how Josh bounces back from this. Although, I don't think he can let this game get in his head too much. In Scrabble, sometimes we talk about the idea that 25% of games are unwinnable, just given the tile distribution, and be that which it will. Whether or not that number is accurate, this seems like a game that Josh couldn't have put himself in a much better position to win at this point.
Yeah, I
Um,
totally agree. I totally agree. And that's, what can you do? It is a
right.
gauntlet when you do these tournaments and you're facing players like Adam. Really the converse could be said too. Adam's going into this
Certainly.
game knowing that if Josh draws well, there's going to be no
Right.
way that he can win the game from his POV as
Right.
well. So
Right.
that's
That's
why we
Scrabble.
play. Yeah, that is Scrabble. That's why we play a whole bunch of games, ideally, to
Right.
get that variance out as best we can. But ultimately, even those big events where you're playing a boatload of games, there's still plenty of room for variance to rear its head.
Right.
It's tough. You have to zoom out as much as you can and really look at the long haul to track your results. And as long as your process is good on a turn by turn basis, you
Right.
will win a lot of games in Scrabble.
Yeah. And as Mike Warner puts in the chat, he's right. You got to be able to put games like this behind you. And I think Josh will be able to do that. Um, Interesting idea from Josh. I guess he thinks he's going to hit a lot more ER bingos than EM
Yeah.
bingos in that spot, which is very astute. Um,
There is a
Probably has.
possibility. Go ahead, Emmett.
No, go. No, you go ahead.
There is a possibility that he doesn't know the word mech there, which would have
It's
scored a few more
possible.
points. But if we're choosing between wreck and neck, definitely wreck for the reason that you just described. And it looks like he'll
Right.
have lamenter to that R.
Which is, kind of just what the doctor ordered in order to cut down on the spread. Um, Assuming Adam doesn't have any crazy troopier, no, only with a U, I think. But if that's even good,
Uh,
regardless, Yeah. Um, you know, in a short tournament like this, records are going to stay bunched up near the top of divisions, right? Well, so whatever spread Josh can cut here is probably going to be pretty impactful for his ultimate position in the tournament. Although, he'd hope that he just goes and wins out the rest of the tournament, finishes 14-1.
For sure, yeah. But it's definitely part of that turn by turn process that I was just alluding to before, that as long as you keep that in order, you're going to do well over the long haul. And Scrabble is to try your best to block out the fact that in some games like this one, Josh's winning chances are essentially zero. But
Right.
actually, as you describe, Emmett, if he's able to continue to make good decisions, and I think Rec represents a great decision on his part to maximize his odds of getting a bingo down that will cut this spread,
Right.
you're going to make sure that when you win by as many points as possible, and when you lose by as few points as possible, and that
Right.
matters. That's the tiebreaker, like you said. So I do think that the shorter the tournament, the likelier it is that that tiebreaker looms large.
Right. Right. What do you think Adam is thinking about on this turn?
Well, I think he is kind of the converse of Josh. He's wanting to block as much as he can. And this is a
Right.
nice way of scoring pretty well. That scores 28 points, which is deceptively high with all of those
It's
overlaps.
deceptively high.
His play of Poco there. The other thing that that play does is that it obstructs this E, which is not nothing, right? Now Josh
Right.
cannot play anything into this E, but the R is still available. I'm sure if Adam had a play that blocked the R,
Right.
that was as high scoring, he would have wanted to play it, but he had to take that trade off of scoring very well, blocking a little bit, and hoping that Josh doesn't hit that R. Turns out that Josh did hit it with the only bingo that he has playable here.
Right. That's a word I'll expect Josh to find 100% of the time.
Oh, but look at this. It gives
Is
an
there a
A. Yeah, it get so Josh
Oh,
making this
Amatrol.
blank
Oh
an
my god.
A, and
Wow.
it will give. You can see that Josh is about to draw two U's, other decent tiles there, but the two U's, and Adam is going to have an eight-letter word here. And as soon as he will see this again, it's Adam
Yeah,
Logan
of course.
here, and Josh made a valiant attempt to cut this deficit into the 100-point range, but Adam is about to seize that lead right back as soon as he
Yeah.
sees this. I think what's happening here, he might just be looking at every possible option here. I'm going to guess that he's seen this already, and he's just maybe now he
Agreed.
just has seen it.
Yeah.
And Amatrol, which again,
Yep.
if you're watching this and you're like, damn, what is that? What the heck is that as a word?
Oof.
It's a
And
weird
it go-
word for sure, but Adam knows words like this like the back of his hand, as does Josh, frankly.
yeah. And look, this is the type of high scoring play you expect from these top experts. Adam laying down 5 bingos in that game. No sweat for him. No sweat for him.
I do feel like in this particular case, maybe Josh wouldn't have. I don't even know if he would have known Parkins or not, but he would have played a bingo on that turn. And there's no question in my mind that Josh knows the other bingos that Adam played. So this isn't really like a
Right.
question of just being totally outclassed or anything.
Oh, certainly not.
It's just Adam was drawing well, and I think they're talking about Kowal here, not
Yeah.
something you see every day. But that was a great spot. I could easily see myself missing a word like that, Emmett.
Oh, Kowal, thank you. I pride myself on my knowledge of words that I'll never get to play. Um, but every once in a while they do happen. I've seen kayak hit the board. That's not with a K. That's with two Q's and a J. Uh,
QAJAQ.
yeah, um, yeah. So that's it's a nice pastime. I know some players recently have been getting into the 15-letter words, um, trying to do those challenges, which
Oh my
are
God.
exceedingly rare. Will never be seen, almost certainly, but um, it's for the love of the game. It's at one point or another, right? Well,
Yeah, I mean, there is some feeling for me that if you are kind of stretching your brain to be able to anagram 15 letter
oh, of
words, that
course,
maybe going back down to those shorter words starts to get easier. Maybe there's some
right,
kind of like, you know, uh, some, I don't even know what you would call it, like resistance training, but for anagramming, right? Like, but
right.
that's a bit much. I don't believe myself to be very good at those super long words. I'm more of a grinder. I'm a lunch pail
Of course, right,
grandmaster
of course.
where I'm just trying to learn those sevens and eights as best I can. And yeah, so but
And
a lot of
speedrunning the
respect.
fours.
That's true. I do have that one video where I did that. Never again, by the way. Damn, my wrists hurt after that.
It's tiring.
But yeah, I mean, there are amazing abilities, word finding abilities within this community. I would add though that we do have a tendency to show the absolute super elite
Right.
players in the top division. I do think in general, people like seeing the best players of any pastime compete, but I do feel like it does give a very skewed sense of what types of competitors are there at these tournaments. There are divisions with all different levels of skill, Emmett.
Of course, yeah. Like not every chess player is Magnus Carlsen, right? Not everybody's blitzing out entire games in 15 seconds. There's a division for everyone, especially at this tournament. Will where what we've got I think two or three divisions in NW or in the WoW side of the board. With I think we've got players who have never played before in this tournament, which is really great to see in such a good tournament with great direction.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love, I've had a couple instances now of people saying that they were inspired to play from videos that I created and things like that.
That's beautiful.
That's like incredibly rewarding. Looks like we're seeing Adam putting his headset on. I'm not sure if Josh is going to do that as well, but Adam, if you can hear,
Yep.
congratulations on. Oh, okay, we've got Adam. Congratulations on a pretty emphatic win in game one. I guess
Thank you.
there's not a ton to dive into from a strategic standpoint when you're bingoing early and often in this game.
It definitely makes the game a lot easier when you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of those bingos coming down quickly. I think for us and Emmett, we'll let you get the next question. We
Sure.
were really interested by the play of kowal. That's just a word that does not show up every day. I think it's a great example of why the Q words without a U in them are so important. And I just wonder what your thinking was there about potential hooks on that word. It seemed like maybe you were considering the two placements of that word and the pros and cons of both. Take us through your thinking on that.
Yeah, I was indeed considering which placement. I think partly I was thinking I wanted to maybe stop the bingos that ended with a vowel above the R in Relievo, for example. Partly with the hook on Kawali, which I knew I didn't. I thought it might be slightly less defensive that way, but against that, of course, there was putting the A next to a double word score. So I wasn't really sure which one was correct, and eventually I decided that it was probably a small difference, and I wasn't going to spend forever on it.
Yeah.
Fair
So
enough.
just to clarify, were you mentioning the hooks on relievo? Because this variation of
Oh
that
no,
word does.
no, the hook on Kawal, the I on the Kawal takes an I. I thought.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
indeed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you had phrased that in a way that your ability to put an I on this would block the hook on relievo. So
No,
I,
just
I
just that it gives more points if it the I hook on Kawal gives more points if I played it one space over.
Got it.
Right.
Okay. Understood. Yep. That makes sense. And maybe there's some chance that, if Josh doesn't happen to know that hook, it could be something that benefits you greatly to have the ability to, if you draw something like IS on your next rack, you could play something with Kawali and then follow up with a plural. But we definitely favored the placement that you chose, which is the slightly more defensive option. Playing, taking no chances. And holding on to that early lead that you had. So really, apart from that, Emmett, was there any other question for Adam here?
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, it just looked like a very cleanly played game to me.
Yeah, for sure. 5 bingos in the game. That's going to be a tough act to follow for anybody, but a nice way to start, Adam. Congratulations on your opening round win there.
Thank you.
All right, so there we go. Again, bingos early and often for Adam. Not sure if we're going to talk to Josh. Maybe he wants to chat about this. Oh,
Nope.
there he is. Is he saying no? Don't want to chat? Hey,
Oh
Josh.
no, I'm here. I just
Oh,
you do
okay.
whatever you
So
want.
Josh actually had much more interesting decisions in this game than Adam, who was just
I
bingoing
agree.
repeatedly. Josh, talk to us about Sub-Seer. That was actually pretty special of a play. I don't know if you're aware of this, but you made
Yeah,
Adam's life significantly more difficult with that play.
yeah. I mean, I should still play Rebus's. I just wasn't sure.
Oh, okay. So it was a word
Really?
knowledge thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
So
wasn't sure, and I
we
also I get it does give him more like killer plays immediately, but it's not worth the sacrifice, even if I think I'm psychic.
Well, we were thinking that you were going full on some kind of soul read from Jog that we
Yeah.
couldn't quite understand, but I guess it's simpler than that. But you did stop him from playing both through the R of Rebuses, he would have had a bingo, and Vapidity from the V of Relivo in one go. So you really crushed him on that move. So
That's
nicely
hilarious.
done. I guess the other Emmett one,
Yeah.
we'll let you get the next question before me.
Yeah, I mean, also on that Rebus's turn before Jog came down, there was speculation that you were thinking about pluralizing Relivo. Is like that hook? Were you sure that was no good, or were you considering playing it in that position?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was considering the S hook for one turn, so it might have like messed with my thought process on Waif. But once I played Waif, I was like, wait, that doesn't take an S. I'm not going to play an S unless I have to. Maybe it's Collins, but I remembered that it wasn't a valid hook in NWL. So
Gotcha. Okay, good. It looked like perhaps Jog kind of took away a difficult decision from you, but
yeah,
um,
no, I wasn't gonna risk it with other options available.
that makes sense. Good. Will?
Yep, makes sense. The only other question that I thought was a really interesting move was UNCA. Obviously, you're trailing going into that move by about a bingo, but there were a couple other options. But I personally really like your choice of UNCA. Just wondering what your thinking was on that move.
Yeah, there are a lot of ends out. There weren't any floaters, so probably gonna bingo a decent amount. I could have played Mac, but yeah, I felt the board needed some love or something like that. I feel bad. I should have played our friend Mac. Maybe that would have worked out better for me. But yeah.
So also MECK is a Collins word
Right.
too, which
Oh,
would
okay.
be
Yeah.
so
So that
that's
that's definitely something to consider for sure.
it's worth consideration, but I just thought that was a good job by you because opening the board down from that U is not a guarantee. You have a good play that opens the board with a 6 starting with U. So as long
Yeah.
as it's like comparable to other options, I thought it was a really nice way to take advantage of that spot while you have a play there. But obviously, Adam just kept bingoing, and that's how it goes sometimes. So, anyway, tough one. Not much you can do when a former world champion is bingoing on you 5 times, but still a solid job overall. And I wish you would have told us that Sub-Seer was a Galaxy Brain soul read, but so be it.
Well, here's the thing. Like when I played it, I was like, "Huh, let me justify this in my head. Like if Rebus is a word, yeah, maybe he had something, and hopefully I stopped him, or Rebus is not a word. Those were the two options. It was like 50-50.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good job of your intellectual honesty to be honest about that and not get because I would probably be saying, "Oh yeah, it was a soul read." So nicely done there. So anyway, good luck, Josh. We'll let you get to your next game,
Cool.
and
Thanks, guys.
yep, on our broadcast, we'll get ready for round 2. I'm not sure if we know who's playing yet, but it's going to be tough to follow that act, Emmett, of national champion versus world champion. But the field is really deep and
Certainly.
has so many good players.
I mean, that's true. We've got the former World Cup champion at the top of the NWL field, the WOW field, and Jackson Smylie. I think we've got a lot of rings in the field, as it were.
True. And not
Okay.
Mickey Mouse rings either.
Indeed. Okay.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
got
We're getting our producer's word that, man, look at all
another
these
banger coming
matchups.
up. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like we have options here. John Shreve versus Agnes Kramer, who just had a great performance at the Niagara Falls tournament last week.
Very
I
true.
think Jackson Smylie versus Annette Oberstad seems like a tremendous matchup to me. So
Very
that
exciting.
would probably be my choice. I'm not sure if we have like poll ability, but Jackson Smylie, our reigning Word Cup champion, and again, Word Cup, the year-long sort of champion level tournament held by the Word Game Players organization, which is generously sponsoring Montreal Scrabblefest 2024. So shout out to WGPO for the support here. But yeah, that seems like a great one, Emmett. No wrong choices.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, look, Jackson is having obviously a great year of Scrabble. I think across all tournaments, all orgs, he's leading the Player of the Year rankings.
Oh, is
currently.
he? Is that?
Followed. He's in first, and Josh is second right now. So we're certainly seeing some all-star action. But yeah, I agree. I think that would be my choice too. But obviously, it's pending what the players want. If a player ever doesn't want to be featured on the feature table, they don't have to be. Yeah, so it's all about the players.
Which I understand that. Do you have any feelings about that, Emmett? When you get told that you're going to be on the feature table, which has now happened a number of times across School Scrabble and other events, how do you feel when you get that call to go up to the stream board?
I love it. I think it makes me lock in even more. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about knowing that every move I make is being critiqued by, tens of people in the chat, dozens of people. That makes me, more excited.
Hopefully,
to play.
Someday thousands, a cast of thousands, and thank you to the tens or however many, I'm not sure right now, who are watching along on the Let's Play Scrabble YouTube channel. Simple, easy way to support is just clicking that like button on the video and the subscribe button on the channel. Really, really great Scrabble content coming at you on a regular basis on the Let's Play Scrabble YouTube channel. So let's try to get that like count. I'm going to go click this button, and I can feel my life improving pretty much as soon as I click that like button on this video, Emmett.
Oh, yeah. Let me try it myself, Will. And you know what? Seems to have worked for me too.
There's a little pep in my step. I feel a little more energy. My life is looking up since I clicked the like button here. So let that be a lesson to you all.
Yeah, I feel very ready for our next game, which looks like it's going to be John Shreve versus Agnes Kramer, I think. So
yes,
whenever they're ready, we'll get that pulled up. It should be an exciting matchup, I think. Two players who I'm not super familiar with, but I know that both of them have been on pretty impressive runs as of late.
Yeah, so John Shreve, a long time, very solid, expert player. John also notable in the Scrabble community for his unbelievably generous yearly donation to the Word Game Players organization. So huge shout out to John for his sort of patronship of Scrabble, so to speak. But Agnes Kramer, I think she's the lowest seed right now in the top division at the Montreal Scrabblefest, but she is fast rising. She just had an incredibly impressive result at the Niagara Falls tournament just last week, where she, as one of the lowest seeds in that event, was in first place in a field with some real killers, including Jackson Smylie, Michael Fagan, the 2022 North American Scrabble champion. She was on top after something like 16 games of Scrabble. So I definitely look for her to showcase some of those skills that she's clearly been adding to her game in recent months and maybe the past year.
Yeah, I mean, she performed very, very well at that tournament, like on the level of a very high expert. So I'm excited to see the words that she's adding, the strategy that she's growing, and it's always nice to see up and coming players at the feature tables.
Yeah, so it's going to be cool to see. I also love it when you see players sort of rapidly moving up the ranks and showing off skills
Certainly.
that they've really been working hard to add to their game. I'm sure we're going to see that from these two players here. It should be a great matchup in game two. We're just at game two out of 15. And also, Emmett, I do want to plug that on Memorial Day Monday, we are going to have a special, I don't want to say exhibition match, more like a grudge match
Right.
between our two reigning champions this year, our Word Cup champion Jackson Smylie and his perhaps closest rival. You said it in the Player of the Year standings, 1 and 2. Jackson
Josh
Smylie and
Sokol.
Josh Sokol playing a best of 7, which we're calling the ultimate clash of champions. That's a pretty impressive billing.
It's a baller name. Monday at 9:30 Eastern time is when you can tune in. Also to the Let's Play Scrabble YouTube channel to watch that. And I know Josh and Jackson play, I think, at least 1 or 2 sessions of Scrabble a week against each other, 5 or 7 games apiece. So they know each other like the back of their hands. And this is going to be, I think, a matchup for the ages. It's a matchup that at one point it looked like we were going to get in the championship match of the North American championship last year, of the Scrabble Players Championship. But we're going to have, I think, Stefan Fatsis is going to be joining Will on commentary, um, and it'll be faster than normal time control, right, Will?
Yeah, the clocks are going to be a little faster. Should be no problem for the players. I do think that our round two matchup is ready to be previewed if we want to cut over to the game and let's get a live look at John and Agnes as they get ready to play. We're going to give them the go ahead to start in just a moment here. You can see the ratings look like a pretty big gap, but
Right.
actually, again, Agnes has improved her rating in other organizations to a much higher level than this. So I do think the skill levels are going to be much more comparable than those two numbers suggest.
I agree. She's certainly underrated, and I'm just very excited to see what she's going to put together. It looks like she may be going first. Oh no, John's going first. I'm sorry.
Yeah, John first.
Um,
See what he draws.
drawing draws the blank,
Ooh.
and that's a pretty good rack.
Yeah, he's drawn the blank, and I wondered whether that last tile that turned out to be the T, whether that was going to be a vowel or not. That might have slowed John down, but we are
Right.
definitely going to see him find. He's got, so again, we are switching back over. If we could correct the little nameplate above the board, it does look a little blurry to my eye as well.
Just a little bit.
But the CSW, we want to flip that over to WoW. But he does have two bingos playable, and Agnes has pretty good tiles. There are some 8-letter words with this rack, but I don't think she's going to have one available after either of John's choices.
I agree. Yeah.
Looks like just the L for salvably, so she's not going to get one.
Yeah. We'll see how quickly John manages to get down these bingos, but I'm confident that he's going to get it down, and it looks like he's set up goateed on his rack, which is definitely one of the options, I think.
Yeah, those are one of the two. So yeah, we'll see what we could do to sharpen up that board shot. I'm sure it's going to autocorrect itself at some point, but if we need to, we can cut to the analysis board, which is perfectly clear. So that is an option. But yeah, goateed. Oh, there we go. Seems to be fixed
Much
up
better,
pretty
much
quickly
better.
there. Yeah, so the two options there, goateed and adoptee. I guess, I mean, to my eye, they're pretty similar, but I would give maybe a slight edge to goateed just because this G is a little bit more difficult to overlap with a 7-letter word. It's kind of hard to get one down in that spot, and it's really hard to get a 7-letter word down in this direction with all these overlaps. So this positioning looks like it allows just a little bit fewer 7-letter words in response by Agnes.
It's true. I think also goateed doesn't take any hooks either on the front or the back.
True.
where adoptee has the S hook on the back, I believe. So that's another, defensively minded reason that he might have chosen to play this. And Will, one thing off the bat that I've noticed this game, as opposed to last game, is that both players seem to be alphagramming their racks, which means they're putting their tiles in alphabetical order, which conspicuously Adam Logan did not do, I think, even one time last game.
Is that so? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, he
I
was
am
he was just
definitely
going.
one. I do that for sure. Do you
Oh yeah,
alphabetize, Emmett?
every turn. Yeah, almost. Yeah, it's a compulsion at this point for me. Um, but some players just have the type of brain where they can see the words even without seeing the patterns, and it's very impressive.
Yeah, I do feel like the pattern recognition of putting your letters in alphabetical order, because that kind of mirrors the way that we train as competitive
Right.
players. You pick up on that a little bit, and before we can even analyze how terrible John's draw was, he exchanges three I's and an E back down to AET. Emmett, that was not the draw that John wanted after his blank bingo.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I think there were arguments to be made for other plays in that position. It's possible that Teid, that's Teiid, to the D and goateed was correct, but I certainly think his decision to exchange is defensible, as somehow we see another rack with the Q in both U's, or in both W's on it for John.
Gotta shake that bag up a little more. Unfortunately, it doesn't feel possible that John is going to get an opportunity to play Kawali here, so he can't play Kawal in this lexicon.
Unfortunate.
But yeah, what can he do with that Q and two W's? It's tantalizing. It would be amazing if somehow AL appeared on the board for him to play Kawali through, but that's just not happening.
Very unlikely, unfortunately. But it's one of the quirks. Sometimes you'll see something you've never seen 2 games in a row, I guess. As Agnes has a bit of a tricky turn here ahead of her as well. She was looking for maybe John to stick a couple different letters out in space, but I don't think she's going to be able to bingo.
Yeah,
so we'll
it's
see
close.
what she ends up doing.
It's close, and the letters that you're talking about, an A for Volonias, an I for Visional,
Even a Y.
a U for Avulsion, a Y for Synovial, as you suggested. Yeah, so there's definitely plenty of 8-letter words, probably others that I'm not thinking of immediately, but it's painstaking it's tantalizing because the T, the E, and the D are all very good bingo tiles, but they just don't mesh with her particular set of letters. So she's going to have to figure out a way to use that V, which I have no doubt. There's no way she's not going to be playing that V here. It's her weakest bingo tile by a long shot, and that way she can keep all the rest of those nice bingo tiles together and try to bingo next turn.
Yeah, I think, just the 3-tile play of Vo, putting the V on a triple letter score looks very reasonable to me. It's possible that she might want to consider doing something else in order to keep those floaters open for her bingo tiles. But I'm not seeing too many options that are comparable in terms of equity.
Yeah, the thing about Vo, it's weird, right? Vo definitely is a totally natural, plausible play to make here, getting rid of your weakest 2 tiles. It looks like she set those letters up on her rack. The problem is, in so doing, if she were to play this, it blocks the E, which is your best hope to play a bingo. Of course, you could still play one down from the other E. That's definitely still on the table. But I would hate to make such a fishing play that also blocks critical real estate on the board. So another option that she should at least consider here would be something like Vinyl here in this
That's
spot.
what I like here.
The thing about it is, yes, you keep OS instead of AILNS, which is significantly further away from bingoing. but you do score 12 more points and you block the best scoring spot on the board. There's a lot of things that can
Right.
go in this spot, as we're about to see from John's POV. That being
Yeah.
said, I really don't quibble that much with Vo. The D is
Agreed.
still a good bingo tile. If Agnes can redraw an E, she's very, very likely to be bingoing next turn. So we'll see what happens here.
Wall is played very quickly by John. I think that looks to me like the clearly correct play. And, you know, it may be disappointing that we're not going to see Kowali again, but 34 points is too much to pass up. And those letters have synergy with the Q. He'd love to draw a U, but at the very least, he's got the I.
Yeah, for sure. He's going to certainly, this board has no current easy location to play that Q. So he's going to hope to get one from Agnes's next play. There is one and exactly one bingo available here for Agnes. I have a hard time knowing whether she's going to see it or not. She set up a really nice play, but it's not the bingo here.
Yeah, this will be a really good test of her both her word knowledge and her word finding ability. The word is tailspin, which is kind of an unintuitive word to find, just based on structure. You're not often looking for an IN ending. But it's definitely doable, right? Well, with the compound word. I think those tend to be a little easier to find.
Yeah, it is. The other thing about it is that it really depends a little bit on where Agnes is in her sort of study of the dictionary. We definitely have a lot of evidence that she's been working hard at her word knowledge. Tailspin actually has 3 valid anagrams as well. So if you know any of those, you might be able to immediately see the others. So tailspin, alpinist, pintails, anti-slip, I believe, are the 4. Ooh. Anyway, it looks like the opportunity eludes her here, but that is if you're not going to see tailspin, which frankly is a risky play, opening so much space on the board for only 60 points, including a triple. It's not the worst bingo to miss, and she plays what I think is a solid option of peel, and John immediately answers.
It turns out if she in fact had played tailspin, she would have gotten hit with QI on the triple for upwards of 45 points.
Maybe we can show that.
It's possible she dodged a bullet.
Let's try to show that on the analysis board, because that's an amazing observation here. So what Emmett just described, tailspin here was the bingo for Agnes, but had she played that, we would be seeing a 50-point counterplay by John instead of the much more minimal play that John actually had. Instead of 50 points, he scored 19 points. So really, that's pretty much as best case a scenario as you could get to not play the bingo there. Sometimes that happens, right, Emmett? Sometimes your mistakes end up costing you the game immediately, but other times sometimes you can get lucky in that way. It's kind of an underrated way that luck can present itself.
Agreed. And, if I were in Agnes's position, I would just, proclaim that I knew exactly what John had on his rack, and that's why I didn't play tailspin. But that's why we play the games, right? Because sometimes your mistake, as you say, Will, is a game ender, and sometimes you're going to have another opportunity. And this is one of those frustrating positions, isn't it, where Agnes has such good letters, but she's not going to be able to get a bingo down again.
Yeah, good letters. She has a 7-letter word on her rack. It looks like she spotted what could be far and away her best option here. As you see, ARF lined up, the dog sound.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Playing right here with raw and flab. That is a wonderful overlapping play. 35 points on offer in that spot. It looks like she's very likely seen it. I think the only hesitation is, am I missing a bingo here? She wants to make absolutely sure that there is nothing through any of these letters on the board. And when she concludes that, I think we're going to see ARF, Emmett.
I agree. And look, we'll see, actually. She goes and re-alphagrams it, which is how I think, at least to me, that signals that she's definitely trying to look for bingos in other places on the board. Morris in the chat mentions the possibility of in under QI, which
Oh,
is
Morris. Okay. That's
oof,
devious.
that
So
is very devious.
yeah, so the idea here is setting up your S, and pin takes a bunch of hooks, including an E and an A. So
Yeah.
anything like this, SA, SE, going across is going to be absolutely devastating. So in this case, pin setting up surf
Wow.
is
I
like a
mean,
bingo
that's
score.
like 75 points or something. That is
Yeah.
yeah, that is devious.
Yeah,
But
crazy like a fox. I can't fault her playing ARF. I mean, so
100%.
there is a huge upside of Agnes playing in, but also a huge downside if John has an
Right.
S and an A or an E and other clunky tiles. You could bitterly regret making such
Oh,
a
very much so.
aggressive opening. So it would be very high risk, high reward. I love the idea of it though. It makes me
Certainly.
smile to think of playing that, and there might be other situations where such a play would be warranted.
That's so creative. And you know, I think I can't really find any fault with ARF though, right? That's
For sure.
the strongest play, I think, and an incredible bingo leave of EINS. And also, from Agnes's perspective, I think it's pretty difficult to be sure than average that John doesn't have an S, given his previous plays. I don't think he would have done anything very different from what he did if he had been holding an S, or if he had been holding back an S, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to put any stock into John's previous play of Chi at all, and it's definitely something that he would make in many situations. As he goes ahead and plays flinted here, seems reasonable. There are a lot of options here that are very close. Things like flinted, feline, faint, down through this E, keeping a couple more of his bingo tiles closer together. He's opted to just turn over as many tiles as possible, and he's blocked off. The board is now pretty unappealing
close,
with that D, right? So you can just see playing down into this D has really cut off a huge amount of space on the board, which is definitely something John likes, given that he is ahead on the scoreboard here.
100%. And it's going to be interesting to see how Agnes chooses to attack the bottom half of the board, really. My sense would be a bingo down from the A or the T is most likely. But it's also possible that she'll decide to just go for score on the top half.
Well, for now, she has the U, right? So the U is definitely calling to her in this spot on the left. I would be shocked to see her not do something down from that Q to the triple and keeping some good tiles.
Would you play quid or quids in this position?
Great question. So the question is what to do. You would consider quid. Would you tack the S on? For me, in this situation, I would not play it. And my reason for that is this. When I play quid like this, keeping both S's, I might draw into slightly fewer 7-letter bingos, but those that I do draw are much likelier to actually fit on the board as long as they start with an S. Whereas when I play quids now, not only are you essentially telling John that you have another S, so he'll never open one incidentally, it's much tougher to play down from this spot. And this S here makes you need extra overlaps or vowel heavy overlaps. So I would play quid here, but maybe some others would. You do get 3 more points for playing it, so it's tough. My instinct says leave it off, and that's what Agnes has done. But I wouldn't begrudge others
I agree.
from playing it here.
I think from a purely theoretical perspective, the leave of 2 S's is worth 1 point more than the leave of 1S. So in that case, playing an S for 3 extra points is worth it. But given those other strategical considerations, I think it's definitely seems to me to be the right play to leave off that other S.
It's a
Although,
tough one, though.
gosh,
It's tricky.
it's definitely tough. I think this one, in this position, it's a little more decisive, but I think we'll see plenty of positions this weekend where it's not close to that decisive.
You can also just see this is an easier lane to hit for the bingos that you draw as well. So not
Right.
only are you getting the S bingos going across with quids, but 7-letter plays down here are way easier when you leave that S off. So,
Right.
yeah, it's tough. In general, it's very difficult to quantify the opponent responses to you playing an S like that, because you're essentially telling them, hey, I got another S, right? So they're going to
Right.
adjust their play in ways that can be difficult to quantify. So anyway, it's over to John. John has one bingo playable here, and that is, I started the P in the wrong spot, but paralleling through this I. And that would be a great play for him here. It doesn't really offer very much back.
Yeah.
And is he getting ready to play grip
line? Wow. That's creative. Maybe
Ooh.
he's confusing it with grap line. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
even know if that's good,
definitely.
right?
Okay, so so there is a valid word, as Emmett suggests, grap line. If you were to make this an A, that would be a valid word. This is not valid. I'm curious what Agnes is going to do.
This is definitely a test of her word knowledge.
It looks like John's not drawing his tiles, so Agnes is probably looking at this and thinking, boy, this doesn't look familiar to me.
Oh,
Looks like John's
he's putting his name in the
drawing.
bag.
Yeah,
Could
not
be a
sure if
courtesy
that
draw.
exactly. I'm not so sure yet if John is home free or not, but we'll see. It seemed like he was a little slow to draw tiles. That could have been because Agnes said, hold, I'm considering challenging. From John's POV, he is allowed to draw his tiles after a certain period of time has elapsed. And not the best tiles. He did draw the Z, but I'm gonna guess that Agnes is not challenging this. It looks like she's tracking
I agree.
tiles. So a bit of a missed opportunity, potentially by both players there.
And as a newer player myself, I know. Oh, wait, are they getting up? It looks like they are getting up.
Oh.
I think Agnes is challenging.
She's made the call to challenge. Very nice. Oh, look at this swanky camera view. Oh,
that is great.
Producer
wow,
Josh Greenway, next level stuff right here. And next level stuff by Agnes to come to the correct decision to challenge this word off the board.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
And all of a sudden, the game dynamic is kind of flipped because Agnes has she's got the initiative. She's got what we call a tempo, meaning she's on turn.
And look at her choosing to block the valid bingo. So John having to pick up his phony, and Agnes immediately, I don't know if this is the best way to block that I, but she knows that she cannot let this I sit open in case that John sees his valid bingo, and she blocks it immediately. Nicely done.
Yeah, I mean, I might have considered playing a C, so that word C just with an A at the front, given that there's still quite a few vowels left, or even but this is totally reasonable. Yeah. Oh, I like that play of a Noah for sure.
Yeah, there was options. She could have played like a Noah alongside here. You do have to be careful that you don't give some new thing back to John. And this is very, very clearly defensive. It doesn't give anything new back. So nicely done by Agnes to correctly make that challenge, block off the I, and live to play another turn here.
I wonder from John's perspective if this looks like a play that infers a second S on Agnes's rack. I think if I were in his position, I would be pretty torn. I don't think I'd be able to come to a conclusion one way or the other. Um, that
It
is
does.
if I saw that I had the bingo paraling after the fact.
Yeah. It looks, I don't know. I mean, it looks like even a play just like AE in this spot, right? Would do the trick. Or even AE
It's true.
one letter down. This scores pretty well. Just
Yeah.
AE right here. Paraling doesn't fit. You would keep an S. So I do think this is pretty convincing if I'm John to know
Yeah.
that
Certainly.
Agnes has another S. It feels weird to play it otherwise, but I don't really know what I'm doing with that information except
Right.
potentially not playing something like Pilfer here because I'm a little worried that Pilfer's is going to hit me super hard. So
Right. And
yeah.
Matt in the chat, who I'm not positive, maybe that could be Matt Canick.
Oh, it is.
Okay. Makes the point that the speed with which Agnes played C is an indicator that she's holding another S. And maybe if she had if she only had one S, she might have thought for a fair bit longer about that turn.
And
Well,
there goes Pilfer.
right. So either he's not inferring the S, or he doesn't think it's so harmful. I think Pilfer's possibly good enough to not bother with worrying about the second S, though.
Yeah, I agree. It's not, I mean, the S in this spot is not
Not super
really
dangerous.
so, I mean, it's not great, but the thing about it is if you're bingoing in this spot, it's almost certain to be a word starting with S, and that already
Sure.
plays here. You're not giving
Right.
Agnes anything new to play in that spot. And it's not that easy to score well with a play with S in second position. So maybe it's deceptively not so bad. I would. So she didn't have Sabaton, but she did have
Yeah.
Abstinent from this egg.
Mm,
That would have been an absolutely stunning find on her part. Not that big of a deal. To if you're not going to see such a tricky word, she plays knob, and now she has notates, which is certainly she's going to see that and potentially play it here next turn.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, things are trending in the right direction for Agnes, and the rack is trending arguably in the wrong direction for John. This is again one of those fun situations where not on this board, but the word CAZH is
Cash, keeping it
a fun
cash.
option.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a good Zax option either, unfortunately.
That's definitely what I'd be looking for here. But
Yeah,
it's just hard to even find for whatever reason, even though
it's
there's
true.
this
Even any
wide
play.
open triple right
Yeah,
here. It seems like there should surely be a play up there that uses the X or the Z, but really there
there's
isn't.
nothing, is
It's pretty
there?
much just
Yeah.
Axe. Again, no Z in this lexicon. You cannot play the Z here, which makes a huge difference. It constricts
Yeah.
the options quite a bit. So John is going to really struggle, and it's hard for me to imagine him doing anything that blocks notates here.
Certainly. And I can't even see him playing Axe, really. I mean, the leave is just so horrible after that. I think you have to play something like Hag, maybe. The G just is, I mean, I guess Zag, Zig words and Gox. But yeah, he's going to put down Hag, I think. And to me, that looks right.
Shockingly, yeah, shocking. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
right because you're
No, it
keeping
doesn't.
four consonants, including X and Z, but it actually is pretty much as good as he can do here, which is quite amazing. So Agnes,
Yeah.
I doubt, will waste any time here. She's a little bit lower than John on the clock, so she is
Right.
making a great choice to play this word with some speed. Get this word on the board. It's her only playable bingo. She spots it very fast and really nicely
And this
done by her.
time, yes, certainly. I mean, just managing the clock correctly. We've got another heuristic that you want to have around a third of your time left for the end game, and Agnes may be a little bit behind that trend line, but she's certainly not too far behind. Meanwhile, I think John is going to play Gox here pretty quickly for 40 plus, 45 plus,
Yeah,
doubling
Gox.
that X.
Yep, makes sense. And it feels like, well, he's alphabetized his letters there, so we don't know yet. Oh, and
He
look at
does.
that. A
A great,
nice
great rack, another one.
nice draw there by Agnes. I'm not 100% sure if she has a bingo
Don't see
immediately,
anything.
but I do know that she's close. She'll definitely be able to threaten playing a bingo shortly.
Certainly.
So,
I mean, maybe I can't see any way the C would go out in space for Creolize.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't see any way she's going to be able to play something next turn. It's going to be interesting to see how she reacts with this rack, although I do
Yeah,
think
when
after the play of
Gox,
Gox, plays with the L in that
yeah,
position are going to be quite
the L.
intuitive.
Yeah, I think something
Yeah,
like just lie
yeah,
would be
yeah, or
pretty
lay. Yeah,
appealing, or
either one.
lay, either one of
Right.
those. So yeah, that's likely how this is going to play out, but it's
Yeah.
possible that maybe Agnes will just play OE in this spot here, right? That's kind of appealing in the sense of keeping
Oh,
absolutely the best bingo tiles, and you would draw something with an R. But I really don't like leaving this spot open for John to use on
I
his next
agree.
turn. I would
I mean,
prefer to use it up in Agnes's shoes here, so I do expect that to be her play.
yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway,
There's a V left. There's D's left. There's an H left. There's the K left even, right? So he could
yeah,
hit that spot pretty hard. Wow, is
Res.
Zinkier with a K good?
I don't know. I don't think it is in this lexicon, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think you
But
could be
either
right about
way,
that.
Res is on John's rack, ready to go down here.
Right.
So that would be very damaging. And we are going to see, ooh, okay,
Oh, that's
that's
interesting. Very
very
interesting.
reasonable choice.
Oh,
So
she takes it
Agnes,
back.
so the upside of playing row is that the EI vowel combination is a little bit better for bingoing than EO is.
Right.
But of course, the L is also a little bit weaker than the R. So those two moves between row and lie in that spot are really, really close to a coin flip. Maybe there's some other positional reason to prefer the L over the R, but either way, very reasonable choice by Agnes, and we'll just have to see what she's got some good tiles, but the board is quite constricted right now.
It is indeed. Yeah, a lot of R's unseen is the point that Morris makes in the chat. Yeah, I don't know. This makes it a tough. I think Zen is close to. Oh no, Agnize is there, isn't it? Right.
Yeah, Zen seems fine. Like if you don't see Agnize, which would be kind of
Yeah.
funny because it's basically like Agnes.
Right.
We have somebody with an almost a homonym of this right here, but that's so John might be tempted to play Agnize if he sees it. It's definitely
Right.
not easy to see that, especially with other plays like Rez up here lurking in this spot. A couple other ideas. You mentioned Zen right here. So Agnize is not the easiest to spot, but from John's POV, the nice thing about it, he's trailing, and it would be nice to open more space across the board if he really feels like he needs a bingo. Instead, he's going to play Zen, which is a reasonable option, Emmett.
I agree. It's totally reasonable. After Agnize, you get hit with a fair few plays that end the game on the spot, potentially, or at least make it very, very hard to win. Where Zen is a nice, clean play that puts you up by one, I guess, in this position. I'm not sure how I feel about leaving myself with the two eyes on the rack.
Yeah, very
especially
risky.
with a few unseen as well. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Uh, Maybe an underrated defensive note for this play is that there's only one A left in the bag, so you're not too worried about getting hit by 35 to 40 point plays with like some sort of AD combination.
Oh yeah, true.
Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Agnes reacts to this. I think the aged spot um, looks pretty appealing. Yeah, yeah, I like that. Oh, yeah,
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah, this makes sense. She's using up that spot. Even though there is only one A, it would be a shame to get hit super
Hit
hard
by
on this
that,
spot,
of
especially
course.
because with that A and the right hooks, you really can go all the way down through there, right? With something like
Right.
ARE, ADE, Jade, or something like that would score a boatload. So blocking that has value. And she's also set up her I and S in this spot in a way that it doesn't help John unless he has a bingo there. It doesn't help him score particularly well.
Right.
But Agnes knows that if she's hitting that spot, it's almost certainly because she has a bingo. So
Yeah, I don't.
yeah,
It's a little with the game so close. I actually think it's a very defensible play. If Agnes were up a little bit more, I'd be more skeptical of putting a word with so many hooks out in space.
yeah, that's true.
The I, the T, the S, even another L. I'm not sure if there are any left.
So
Um,
another nice play, EDH right here
it's
would have been a
so
lot of
hard to see with the
points.
blank.
Really, really
So
tough.
hard to see with the
But
blank.
that's
But
another
yeah, that
candidate
would have been
for.
beautiful.
So let me make sure everything's up to date here. This is tough. Now Agnes is up by a little bit. And oh man. So this is a cool idea. The idea
Yeah,
here is to set up his T to go down. So torque, a valid word. He's
yeah,
keeping the T, is John, hoping that he gets the right consonants to be able to play here, but the IITU leave is certainly going to run into issues some of the time.
yeah. I mean, I think in a perfect world, he's hoping to just draw the H there. Though we see the H is on Agnes's rack, so
Yes.
um, he's not going to get to play that. Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, could we see him play like tedium here? Hooking
Maybe.
dealt with either the T or the E. I mean, that feels very very difficult to play with the game this close, but it
Yeah.
would fix his rack troubles.
So let me just make sure we're all up to date here.
Oh,
Yeah, tedium.
that looks beautiful.
Tedium here is definitely an option. So another play, if John sees it, if he wants to be more patient, meaty in this spot would be absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
I
that
want
is
to point out
beautiful.
one play that Agnes had. So we saw that on her previous move, she kept chins on her leave. She had this Y, and she could have played Lich in this spot for an absolutely enormous score. That being
Oof.
said, she has to know that if John is playing something in this area of the board, it might be worth her time to block it. So that does have some benefit in that regard. So a lot of really interesting plays here. You can just see again. I mentioned it, Emmett, after Flinted, how
Yeah.
devastating that play was to
Oh,
this
you were
area of,
right.
and you're really seeing it come into play right now. There's just no, it's either very difficult or nearly pointless to access the lower right quadrant here, and that is constricting things quite a bit.
100%. I mean, the players are playing in a very very cramped space right now. Um, Although what is making this board dynamic so much more interesting is that the game is close enough that neither player has a strong and actually they both kind of have a disincentive for opening up the board right now. Um, it's possible that John, oh, interesting, very interesting. He's putting that E hook out into space. Um, I do like that play. I think it's pretty strong. Leaving both eyes is rough again, but yeah, I mean we're still playing defensive. Although that's another S hook that Agnes is going to really appreciate, I think.
Yeah, it's not,
Uh,
in such a challenging position. I don't hate that play for sure.
no, I totally agree.
I do think meaty E would have been a nice way to score a little bit better and shed those eyes.
Yeah,
You also have to realize this blank is lurking. So every tile you use after if John's going to play 3 tiles when he could have
right,
played 5, you never know which of those 2 draws that you would get. Maybe they become the blank. So there's that to
right.
think of as well. But
That's the
it's this is tough. This is a tough position for sure, and it's kind of fascinating.
yeah. It's this is I'm really enjoying this game. I know it huge contrast with our last game where we had just bingo, 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 bingo. We've
Yeah,
only had 2 so far this game, but
yeah.
this positional
1,
play is really
2.
interesting. And wow, that is such an interesting play from Agnes, and I really actually like it a lot. I think it's
Yeah.
it's it's so fun.
So
Wow.
she's really just sticking to her guns. She's seeing no reason to open the board.
Oh my God.
If she had wanted to use her J, she could have done it with a play like Jin, but that would have
Mhm.
been really recklessly opening the board. There's just all kinds of stuff that can happen after this. Maybe it's not so bad as it looks because you have to start with a vowel. But either way, she's being extremely patient, not
Yeah,
opening anything and hoping
certainly.
that
And
John runs into some trouble.
I mean, if I'm John, it's really difficult position for every single turn for both of these players. John has to balance. If I'm John, it's possible I'm looking into the bag and maybe thinking about what draws I can hit to play a bingo down from the A. Um,
True.
you know, it's
This is
yeah,
a
he's
brutal. This is a brutal turn. There's no question about it.
yeah. Maybe I'm playing. I don't even know. Amir has crossed my mind. That seems so reckless. Tinier has crossed my mind. Um, yeah, it's
Okay, he's decided to go all out
wow.
for that blank, and he's pretty likely to get it here. You can see Agnes doesn't have it. He's scoring very, very low for this play. Lintier, only
Yeah.
nine
What is that?
points, leaving
7?
just an
Yeah,
R.
yeah.
So that's definitely that hurts to take such a low score in such a close game. But if he draws that blank, and he
And he
does,
does.
and he gets a bingo down, it doesn't really matter that he only took 9 points. You can see the score is so close that whether John scores something like 20 or 9, it doesn't really
Right.
matter as long as he gets a bingo down. So makes
Yeah, and
sense from that standpoint for sure.
unfortunately he doesn't give Agnes a spot to play juiciness. Um,
Yeah, and he
but
has
he
outrave
is
and
out
emo.
rave. Wow.
So that is going to be a huge disaster if Agnes somehow doesn't figure out a way to block off this board. So she definitely is going to be fully aware of the situation with that blank lurking. In her defense here is the fact that look at the unseen tiles. There's a lot of garbage in there, but
Right.
actually John has about as good of a rack as you could be
As he'll
expected to
ever
have.
have. Yeah. It's
So he
true.
doesn't have the 2 U's, he doesn't have the K, he doesn't have the G combined with other clunky letters. So she has to do her best to come up with some kind of blocking play. I'm not even sure what exactly that is.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, sights is wow. I think it's definitely near the top of the ladder in terms of pure score.
Yeah, you
But
can't do that much better in terms of pure
no,
score. But now it's just a question of John. So it's not a lock that John sees outrave, by the way. We've already seen John make a word knowledge mistake in this game, and he has to think of the blank being an O. I do think he has incentive to do that because an O is one of the hooks to EM that he's trying to consider here. Um,
right.
but let me just give Agnes her points and give John his tiles so we can see the situation here. 1 tile in the bag.
This is what we call a pre-endgame position. That's, I think, gosh,
Oh,
is
curative
it
as well. Curative is potentially going to be playable as well. So sorry, we have this on the board
no,
for you guys. So curative is playable. Outrave and emo, which is a little risky. I guess it's not that risky because the S hook is going to be hard to use with this R. There's no E's
right,
left, so you can't make a big play here. That would be devastating. And then lastly, vestural through the S. 3 bingos available for John. So I fully expect him to find one of those. From his POV, he also has to be concerned if he draws the J, it's possible that he would be stuck with it. So that's another issue lurking.
right. It's
This is
hard to imagine.
really complicated.
Yeah, it is really complicated. Um, yeah, I think you have to see that playing something like curative gives back juke plays a lot of the time,
Yeah.
which are pretty harmful. I think, excuse me,
Juke.
outrave to me seems like the right play, right?
Juke,
There's also the
joke.
other juke, right? Um, ugh. I mean, yeah, it's
It's
tough
brutal.
to. It's really brutal.
And there's no
And both
time.
players, exactly, no time. It's hard to think about all the possibilities, but I don't know, Will. Something's telling me that John has seen Outrave and he is looking into the bag for what Agnes is going to do next.
So if he plays curative right here,
Yeah,
in this situation, Agnes will have
junkies.
one winning play, and that is junkies. Actually, I put it in
Yeah,
the wrong spot. So curative will not win technically, but Agnes would have to find junkies, which is not the easiest, but I think she has a great chance of doing it with 4 minutes on her clock. So
I agree.
that's
I
what will
agree.
happen after curative. After outrave, that looks like it's definitely likelier to just win the game outright. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
outrave looks like a winner because it just offers nothing back to Agnes there.
right. I mean, just JUS, I think is the play. Um,
Oh man, there's a
but
lot hanging on this. Ooh, that's an
ooh,
interesting play too.
wow.
Now, this is going to
I
lead to a G draw. I don't know whether that's John blocking this on purpose, but now he has bingos in multiple spots.
multiple spots. Yeah,
I think, or
Gravest.
well, he had
Or
does
does he?
Grav. No, Gravis doesn't fit, but he
No, it
has
doesn't
a bingo
play.
to the S. But that creates a brutal situation. It might be possible for Agnes to block everything now after that play.
But
Oh
she's
no!
gonna play junks very quickly, and I
Yeah,
think
she has
it might
time.
it's exactly it's valuable for her to take more time on this.
Yeah,
Um,
she has 3 minutes to think this through.
yeah,
This would normally. Oh, she hits the clock. Oh
especially
man.
because when the bag goes from one in the bag to zero in the bag, the complexity of the game goes down by a factor of 8, right? Because I
Yeah,
mean, even more than that, honestly, because now it's a perfect information game. She can see
he sees it.
probably, yeah, wow, wow, he does.
Wow. Crazy. So, just brutal.
That is brutal. It's going
So
to be a
she'll
30-point
challenge
win, 20
this.
point win.
She will challenge this because there's no downside for her not to. There's the blank
Yeah,
slip. She has every reason to challenge. They're going to go up and check this word, and it is a valid word. Stravage. Crazy. So
wow,
I just think it's fascinating, though, from Agnes's POV there. It seems like his only playable bingo
would
is
be there.
this word. So if she slows down, I don't know if she knows this word. She may not. So she may have been just concerned that, with that blank as an S, that you got to block this. But actually, if she
Right.
would have just played jukes here, I think she's home free, right? That or jokes or whatever.
I agree with you, Will. I mean, look, I personally have never seen the word stravage or stravage before, but I think in this position, it's a little easier to see that given the letters that are left on John's rack, which you'll know all 7 of, he's not going to be hitting any S bingos, hooking emu. So it seems like the only spot you have to worry about is probably at the bottom of the board, even if you don't see the exact word that he may bingo out with. But again, I mean, just a really sticky position, really difficult for both players. And we saw the game ping pong back and forth 2 or 3 times just in the last turns alone. And that's a Scrabble game for you, Will.
That was a banger. I can't believe
100%.
it. Game 2. That's crazy. So very back and forth game. I think both players played in a very sort of savvy, cagey way. A lot of strategically interesting decisions. Yeah. Certainly some missteps, but ultimately 2 really strong players duking it out and giving us quite the treat to dig into here.
Certainly, and I'm excited to talk to John and walk through his decision making on the end there. John, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, we can hear you. Congratulations on the win.
All right. I felt I played pretty lousy.
Oh, wow.
I think that's selling yourself short.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the paroling thing, it happens to all of us, but that sequence at the end was absolutely insane. So obviously your clock ticking down as well. Take us through that last, situation with extending M to Emu and just hoping for the best there.
Yeah, well, so I wanted to get rid of the V, but there was no place for it, so I got rid of the U.
Yeah, 1 tile in the bag. You kind of have to play one and only one, and not much else to do with that U, while also opening some more space. So makes a lot of sense. I guess. Yeah, go ahead, John.
I should say. So you're telling me paroling is good. I didn't like that.
Yes. So paroling. Yeah. Oh, you must have seen it then. Clearly, if you're saying.
Yeah. And I was totally sure grip line was a phony, but I was seeing if I could get away with it.
Okay, hey, we've all been there. That's definitely right. And kudos to Agnes for holding her ground on that one. But there were a bunch of really interesting decisions on your part. We could talk about, obviously Lintier at that point, you're in a really brutal situation. There's no way to score. Must have been thinking, I got to get my hands on that blank.
Yep, that was the only purpose of that play.
Any comments, Emmett, before I think of more questions?
I think Lintier was such a sticky situation. On that turn and the turn before that, did any part of you think about hooking Dell, with the I, the E, the T, any of those?
Yes. Yeah, but my tiles were lousy enough that opens up the triple, and so I don't really like that.
Yeah, there's no real safe way to you could play Ire or something in that spot. None of which are very inspiring. So Lintier, just trying to get your hands on that blank makes a lot of sense.
The only one I thought of down there was when I played Orc, playing Toric down there because it doesn't open as much. But that score is too little, and I was not, then I'm still behind, so I don't like that either.
Playing Orc up there gives you the option to play your T with Torque as well. So that seemed nice if your draw cooperates. But of course, Agnes got worried about that spot and blocked it. Right. Just curious though, on the Emu turn, it's not clear that these plays were any better than just Emu, but did you actually identify any bingos there, and did you feel like they lost the game? You had a couple. One would have been out rave making emo in this spot.
Oh, that's where I'm lousy, is missing the hook. I saw Outrave, but I didn't see emo.
Okay.
Wow.
So that would have put a lot of pressure on Agnes and probably have been a win. But there was a bullet that you dodged there with curative from the C of sights. That would have been a loser. She would have played junkies through the E of curative in the triple lane. So it's sort of like dodging the bullet there. So I guess it was less a matter of missing out Rave and more just not thinking of the O hook on EM, which is not the easiest.
Yeah, well, it should be, but yeah.
Hey, time pressure. We've all been there. When that clock's ticking down, things get dicey, and you came away with a big win there. So well
All
done.
right.
That was a treat to watch.
Well, I do have
kudos on
one
the
last
win.
question, by the way, if you don't mind, John.
No, go ahead.
There was some discussion about this in the chat after the blocking play of C by Agnes. Did you infer that she was holding on to another S, or did you think it wasn't that important in the position regardless?
I did think she had another S.
Gotcha. So you figured that the pilfers, and I agree with you on this actually, wasn't dangerous. I thought actually it wasn't too dangerous. Interesting.
Oh, okay. I thought it was somewhat dangerous, but but I needed to do something there.
No, I agree. It looked like one of the best plays in the position, certainly. But that's very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you also have quids available. So if she has a 7-letter bingo starting with an S, it's going to play with quids anyway. So it's not going to be that much worse. So we like Pilfer for sure. Anyway, John, we'll let you get to round 3. Very nicely played game. That was a lot of fun to watch. And good luck in your next games.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
John.
Thanks, John.
So there you have it. John Shreve, fresh off of a pretty exciting win there. Hope we got to ask him some of the questions in the chat. Oof, that was quite a game, Emmett. We've got one more to finish off the night. I'm ready to turn in for the night right now, but we've got another game ahead of us here.
Yeah, that was a certified banger, and it sounds like we've got another certified banger to look forward to. I think we're going to see Jackson Smylie, the winner of the Word Cup last year, versus Michael Fagan, the winner of the Scrabble Players Championship 2 years ago. So, I mean, these are both Montrealers and, two of the best players on the continent, certainly, that are going to match up. I'm really excited for this matchup again, Will.
Yeah, it's a great one. 2 players with championship pedigrees. Kind of is my camera frozen here? There we go.
No,
2 somewhat contrasting styles. Maybe I feel like Michael is definitely a very mathematical player, a very fast endgame calculator. Jackson is a little bit more, certainly Jackson has incredible skills of calculating an endgame, but also has the ability to really go by intuition in a way that few players have. So I'm excited to see those 2 styles collide. It should be an excellent matchup coming up.
I agree. And, I'm hoping to see a game a little more similar to the one that we just saw than the first one. Not that I have anything against our 2 incredible players and Josh and Adam, but that game had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. So I'm hoping to see these guys bring the fireworks. And obviously 2 incredible players should be nothing short of amazing.
Yeah, a lot. Hopefully there was a lot to dig into in game 2. If the tiles cooperate, I have no doubt that game 3 will be much the same. While we're waiting to set up our players, just want to once again shout out the Let's Play Scrabble team of event organizers and, of course, our stream producer, Josh Greenway, behind the scenes, doing a humongous amount of work to bring you the live streaming coverage. We just get to sit here and enjoy watching the game along with all the rest of you there in the chat. But definitely want to shout out Let's Play Scrabble. Easy way to show your appreciation. Just clicking some of those buttons on YouTube. Clicking the like button, clicking the subscribe button. Just tell a few hundred of your friends to stop by. Easy. Couldn't be easier. No, you don't have to do that, but the simplest thing to do, just clicking some buttons. It's a great way to show support.
If you're enjoying the coverage of this event, maybe you want to get into an event yourself. Let's Play Scrabble is hosting their annual July 4th tournament in Albany from July 4th to 7th. So if you're interested in that tournament, that's on letsplayscrabble.com. It should be, I mean, it's one of the premier tournaments of the year. I always love that venue. I've been to their Albany tournaments over New Year's multiple times, and it's always a great time. So I really recommend it.
Definitely a staple on the calendar. I'm not sure if I'm playing the big events this summer, but I do want to play that one. If I'm not going to play the big championships, I want to at least go to Albany so I can get kind of that championship atmosphere without needing to go quite so far. But we'll see. In any case, definitely a great recommendation to go to letsplayscrabble.com and see if they are holding any events near you, typically on the East Coast of the US and Canada. But also want to shout out Word Game Players Organization. Huge support, very big donation into the coffers at this tournament, the prize pool, the budget. Word Game Players Organization, WGPO.org. Actually, I think it's wordgameplayers.org. Either way, should be easy to Google. And lots of tournaments around the entire, continental North America. So those are the two, big thank yous right now. I think we got the nice standings here. Oh, these look very nice. So we can see going into this game. Still way too early to glean too much from this, Emmett, but some familiar faces here for sure.
Certainly. Yeah, we can see Zach Ansell is sitting in first place. Player I'm very familiar with. He is the aforementioned 15-letter anagrammer. But right behind him, we've got Sam Hollington, and the man we're about to see is Jackson Smylie. So it's an incredible lineup that we've got so far. We can see Michael is 1-1. So again, early in the tournament, these things flip around very quickly. But yeah, let's go preview the game.
There we go. Got our players seated and ready to rock here. Jackson and Michael, again, 2 champion level players. As long as the tiles cooperate, it should always be a banger between these two great players. Really excited to dive in as soon as our players are ready. We can get started. I believe it'll be Jackson going first.
All right, and we're off. I wonder if we'll see another first draw bingo. Well, we've seen 2 so far, which is, I think, something like 1 in 49 chance.
It's not that likely. We'll see if we get the streak of 3. Doesn't look like a good start here.
Good.
With the Y. Oh, okay. I think the streak's coming to an end here. Can he salvage it? I don't think so.
Emojify.
Oh yeah! Oh, that's great.
With an E.
Got it with an E. Maybe someday that will be valid.
Maybe someday.
Unfortunately, not that day is not today. So
we may see an opening play bingo from Michael, although the third A is a little difficult. So
okay, yeah.
What are you seeing on from Jackson here?
Well, it's tricky. He's really got kind of 2 options that stand out. It's between Mojo and Joy for me. And I'm really not 100% sure which of those 2 I favor. I'm going to go ahead and predict that Jackson will play Joy. And my reason for that is both Mojo and Joy create an S-hook. But Mojo, to me, is a little bit easier to underlap as long as Michael has an O. Joy is definitely underlappable as well. Actually, Joy is probably equally underlappable. So I don't really know. I don't really know what I'm driving towards with this analysis.
Yeah, I mean,
they're pretty similarly underlappable. So
they are.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit like Mojo is a little easier to score off of than Joy is.
I agree.
But I don't really have great evidence for that claim. So
I think, to me, just the OYI connection or the OYI combination feels bad intuitively, although having the F for those IFY words that are pretty unlikely, but that's definitely helpful. So I would also be inclined to play off the Y here. I'm very interested to see whether Jackson will open horizontally or vertically, though. And
Yeah.
to my delight, he opens vertically.
Yeah, he's going to play vertically. So we've got that eternal debate within our community of vertical openings versus horizontal. Michael, pretty much immediately upon the clock being hit to him, exchanges his 3 O's and I think another A, it makes a lot of sense. So back over to Jackson, who's got his 26 points for joy. That's going to pop up in just a second. And he's got a chance now to shape the board to his liking here.
Certainly. I think this play is going to set the tone for the type of battle this game will be, whether it's going to be an open one or a closed one like the one we saw last game. I think I would want to see Jackson maybe play something with doubling the M both ways, potentially. But the play he's setting up right now of Dome also looks very, very possible. I don't quite like the FIU combination leaving.
Yeah, I think he's gonna get off of Dome for that reason. And Odium does look
Odium
like
looks great. Yeah, that looks great.
a significantly better play to score a similar number of points, but also get that U off of his rack. I am very curious, though, about this play, FOU. This play really cuts down on any possibility of an S hook. So foo in this lexicon, I believe, is some kind of adjective. It doesn't take an S. You kill the Joyce hook. You don't give a new hook back. Of also doesn't hook. This is a super defensive option, which I really would be tempted by if I'm Jackson, if I want to really constrict Michael's options as hard as I can. That being said, Odium would be an extremely reasonable play for him here. I have no quibble with this either.
Yeah, and this isn't the most board opening play of all time either, although you do have the options of a number of tiles go before YE. JO has a number of back hooks as well. So in fact, we may actually see Michael play one of those, although no, I think he's just going to play something like Vow or a Vow hooking JO.
I think Vow makes the most sense, keeping the A on his rack to respond with a Vow plays on a subsequent turn. Obviously, now we see that Jackson has an A, but he's going to be hard pressed. So if Michael plays Vow here, it's going to be very difficult to not see Jackson playing a 4 in this spot. It's just way higher scoring than anything that he can play with a Vow. So what we may see here, Michael plays Vow, Jackson scores well to the triple, and then Michael cashes his A hook and bingos with that blank. I feel like that's the likeliest sequence from here on out.
I agree. I'm interested in what Michael has set up on his rack currently, which is WAP, which looks like that's looking to play on the YE hook. Oh, no, obviously on the right.
Yeah, I think he's going to play it there.
I don't quite know if it's worth keeping the V on my rack.
It scores 9 more points, so it is tempting. So Vow scores 24, but if Michael were to play WAP instead right here, that would be an increase of 9. So that's pretty good. It looks like he has his A and a W in hand. He's getting ready to play it. So I don't really quibble with that. I do think Vow has a huge upside for him in creating that A hook with the blank in hand, but it is nice to get the 9 extra points. So I'm not saying that this is some kind of massive error on his part, if it even is one at all. My gut
looks very, very close.
It's close. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of just the right number of points extra to get. But now we are going to see Jackson play a 4 here, almost certainly.
Ooh. Interesting. I wonder what he's thinking about. Maybe, is there any way you would play a fire instead of a 4? I can't.
I doubt it. Yeah, I mean, in general, the 2 leaves after those 2. So a 4 leaves AI, which is actually pretty good and pretty synergistic.
Yeah,
a fire leaves AO, which is a significant
That's very true.
bit worse. I wouldn't say, I mean, it's not like the two, one is good and one is bad. It is definitely a
Right.
hair splitting thing, but I think Jackson's definitely chosen correctly, and his reward
He's gonna
is,
get bingoed on.
well, also his draw is
Oh, brother, I didn't even see that.
his reward is not the best draw ever. So yeah.
So with the power of hindsight, we can see that in fact playing a fire would have been better because he wouldn't have doubled eyes. But of course, there's no way to know that.
In fact, playing either of those would have led almost certainly to an exchange. So
Of course,
it
of
almost
course, of
doesn't
course.
matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter what he would do. He's exchanging almost certainly. I guess it's worth questioning if Michael plays what's probably his highest scoring bingo of Revolted here.
Yeah.
Would Jackson consider
Oh.
playing Aid here, which I think he might. I don't know. It's tough.
The lead
It's
would be
really close.
AAEI. I think.
I think he might.
I think it's. I think I would play it.
It's tempting, right? It's tempting just because that spot instantly, the E in that spot, sorry, the D rather in this spot instantly becomes the best scoring spot on this board. There's really no simpler, easier place to score. So this is just, it's brutal. I think Jackson is getting just enough points to play and benefiting from blocking by far the best scoring spot on the board, right? So my gut says play it and suck it up. He might exchange, and I could hardly fault him for that. I don't know. What do you think, Emmett?
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised if he exchanged. It seems the intuitive play, I think, is
now we
Aid.
know Azide is coming down if he exchanges.
Yeah. I also think Jackson is, we spoke about him being a player who goes by intuition, but I think he's mathy enough, to do the equity calculation too, where I think it also works out that Aid is slightly better. But as Matt Kanik in the chat says, he has to block it. There's only one spot to score.
Wow.
Well, I guess he disagrees.
He does not. Yeah,
who am I to disagree with Jackson?
We see the Z on Michael's rack, and it's obvious of like, oh yeah, he's got a block. Michael's got the Z. But in fact, Michael could have a similar rack. He could have consonant, incredible consonant heavy rack. He can't do much to that D. So, it's not as obvious as we're sitting here. In fact, those two plays are really close to a coin flip. And a lot depends on what Michael draws. You could definitely get away with exchanging in Jackson's shoes if Michael just drew something not quite as amazing as what he drew. So I'm not going to sit here and say Jackson just made some kind of horrible mistake. It was just a coin flip, really.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think a lot of the time with Michael drawing into an average rack, he's not going to be able to hit the spot very hard. From my own perspective, I think I would have been too scared of, the game losing plays like Azide or Zeta that might come down here to not immediately game losing, but difficult.
Certainly will. Yeah, it'll put Michael in a commanding position without question. There's no doubt about that. And I don't even know. I don't think Jackson has a bingo anywhere on his next turn. And I don't even know what he's going to do. He does have an S. He can pin his hopes on the fact that he's drawn an S, which is going to be nice to play Jows. It'll be tough for that spot to get blocked unless Michael draws an S of his own or an L. So I do feel like, and yeah, Jackson, what can he do? See the S.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really kind of the worst case scenario for Jackson after the exchange, honestly. Maybe that and a triple. But Jackson is an incredible strategic player. I wouldn't be surprised if he figured out a way to wrestle out of this situation.
Yeah, he and Josh Sokol are two players that I'm just constantly odd by the way that
Yep.
they come back in games when they should have no business being in the game.
Agreed.
So yeah, is he down by 100? Yes. By the way, Michael has played really, really well so far, exchanging on that opening
Oh,
turn.
of course.
WAP seemed like a very reasonable choice. Very similar to Vow. Revolted was his highest scoring bingo, and he correctly played Zeta over Azide, keeping that
Yeah.
vowel on his rack when he could have, if he didn't see this option, he might be in even more consonant trouble than he's in. So well played to Michael for sure. And it's going to be tough now for Jackson. What is he even supposed to do? Just play gob here and just go for broke to try to get a bingo immediately? That's pretty uninspiring, but maybe that's
It is.
what he's looking at here.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I think of Jackson and Josh, I think of like the tactics almost. In chess, the little plans that you run 2 or 3 moves together. I think these players specifically are very good at finding those moves. But I'm not sure if this board right now, at least, is so conducive to something like that. But
Yeah,
Michael's
it's
draw
tough.
wasn't great. It's possible that Jackson can build a comeback here. He's only down 100. It's not 200.
Oh, it's far from over for sure.
Certainly.
As you alluded to, it's a great point about the tactics, Emmett. I do feel like those tactics tend to be most impactful toward the edges of the board where you're setting things
Right.
up on the triple lane and things like that. And you can just see how far off all of these squares are from the action on the board. This has been used up. This has been used up. It's going to be hard to access this one. So as you said, it's tough to see how real tactics could emerge here. I do think it looks like Jackson is grudgingly getting ready to play gob, leaving a solid leave here. This is a pretty good leave. That's going to become a bingo a lot. And that's the play that he makes. What can you do?
I think it's very important for him to draw a bingo on this next turn.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't, I don't see him scoring too well. Wow.
Oof.
That is, you want to see T's. You don't want to see 3 T's at once.
Yeah, he did already have a T, so he probably, in this particular case, he would have hoped for any of the other low point tiles. But that,
it looks like,
not what he's hoping for.
But if Michael plays Twigs hooking Jow, he's going to be able to play Nuttiest for like a 50.
Wow. Big swing. That's interesting. Great point. So Twigs right here, which it does look like Michael is considering. This play has merit after. So if I'm Michael,
I love Twigs, actually.
There's no S's on the board. My opponent just played gob, facing a 100-point deficit at a low score. This definitely screams good 5-tile leave to me. So clearly you're going to want to obstruct this S hook, just thinking that, geez, my opponent probably has it. I can also score a good amount of points there. So the logic behind Twigs is quite solid, and we are going to see it. This is going to be a huge bailout for Jackson with that eye. I'm going to try to read his response. Stone-faced.
He sits up straight in that chair.
Nothing. Yeah, he sat up a little bit. He did sit up a little, but that's a huge swing. We're going to see Nuttiest go down fast, I think.
I agree.
It's not the biggest bingo.
It's very low. It's a 58-point bingo, which I think is the lowest possible 8 you can play.
It's true, but 58 points is so much more than he was expecting to get on this move. So it's still a 100%. Huge win. It's still a huge win. So Nuttiest. And this looks like, Michael opened the eye, but actually we could equally be praising Michael for cashing that S and blocking Jackson's ability to play an S bingo here. So I definitely think that was a totally defensible play for Michael. And now he's drawing the Q. He's definitely going to have some ways to get rid of this Q, though.
Yeah, we're going to see Kintar in one of 2 spots, I think, unless I'm missing something a lot better.
Yeah, Kintar, just a question of where to play it. It certainly seems like this T is the safer of the 2 places. And
For
another brutal draw for Jackson.
That's very, very difficult to draw that after the bingo for Jackson.
Yeah, tough. I mean, he's hoping to get that blank, get another natural bingo, and continue to battle. He's gotten the score to about 50 points. So if he could just get another bingo quickly, it's an even game. Definitely not happening.
Yeah, it's and with so few vowels in space, it looks almost likely that he's going to have to exchange again next turn. Although I could see him finding something through the bottom E, although nothing's jumping out to me.
Yeah, I just don't. Oh, he is going to play Kintar here. I wonder what's the reasoning. I mean,
I'm not a big fan of that one, Will, to be honest. I think it's.
Yeah, I'm just trying to before I
You're right. No, you're right.
pass judgment. I'm just curious. I mean, so let's just point out the obvious. Kintar in this spot scores 2 more points than Kintar in that spot. So he's getting 2 more points. That's a good start. You would have to then, if you want to say that the other Kintar is better, you have to argue that it has positional benefits that exceed the 2-point score gap. In my opinion, it clearly does have that. I just think it's significantly better on defense to not give an easy triple back. Michael doesn't have an E. He doesn't have an I. So he could easily be getting hit on one of these 2 triples. He can draw the letters that he needs to play to these triples. But if he doesn't, he could easily get 1-2 punched in that spot. And he's setting up a nice lucrative S hook here. Whereas Kintar in this spot does none of those things.
Right. Yeah, that's my reasoning too. I think you're going to go up by around 80 points or something. To me, it doesn't make sense to give 2 spots that could pretty easily be hit for 40 plus, especially that spot in the top right triple word. I think a lot of QIs are going to hit. Yeah, like Matt is saying in the chat, he's hitting that spot to me too often to take that 2-point bump. But I think Michael certainly has a plan, and I'm excited to see what comes together.
Look at that.
Jackson does go with drag.
That's the drag is the only
non-exchange.
the only play that you could ever imagine putting on the board here. Even that it just must be agonizing for Jackson to do. But it's at least it scores a few points, and oh man,
the UV draw is not the best.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, these are the things that happen in Scrabble sometimes. And a rough draw for Michael too, I might add. He did draw
very true.
The eyes that he might want to play in this spot here, but it's nothing. Just like AIN is like the best thing that he could play up there, which is kind of a sign of how rough the draws are, certainly for both players.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that they're both kind of getting the dregs at the bag right now, honestly.
Oh, very nice.
Thank you. It's been too long. Yeah, I think to me, I don't know. I see a lot of merit in exchanging on Jackson's turn. I think, again, it's very, very close. But I feel like too often you're getting draws like this where you're not being able to play. Although the bag is very balanced, 23 vowels, 22 consonants left. It's pretty difficult.
So in general, when you see at the later part of the game the vowels starting to overtake the consonants, start when the 100 tiles in the set of Scrabble, you got the 2 blanks, and then you have something like, I forgot what it is. It's like 40, 57, 42 or 57, 56, 42. I don't remember. Whatever it is, you do start out with a fair number more consonants than vowels. So when you see the vowels starting to overtake the consonants, it's actually kind of deceptive. This looks even, but it's actually kind of vowel heavy already. Just because in general, the right ratio is like 3 consonants to 2 vowels ish. So Jackson probably, that might have been some of his thinking behind drag, just seeing, man, there are a lot of vowels that I could draw. He did draw one of them, but not the one he wanted, and it was with a V along with it. So,
Right.
Yeah, but look, Michael's
Yeah.
slogging. Michael has 3 N's and 2 I's,
Certainly.
and he doesn't have a great play coming here. So Jackson is not totally out of it. Certainly Michael in very commanding position, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see. He had the word asinine, A-C-I-N-I, set up on his rack earlier, which was what jumped out to me.
Is he playing that down low?
Yeah, seems to be a pretty defensive positioning. Chad has talked about niacin, which drops an extra tile, but it's a pretty dangerous positioning, but based on Jackson's last turn of drag, I don't think I'm very scared of him having a very powerful rack if I'm Michael. Morris has fish for cinnamon, which would be quite the play.
That would be hilarious.
With just the draw of an O. Yeah, that would be pretty special.
If he plays AI, he could fish for that. I bet that's like surprisingly good of a play, right?
It's for 48.
Yeah, maybe that's not enough upside to warrant it. Okay, so we
that
see
is very interesting.
In I guess a little bit more defensive of a position. I mean, the thinking here is to block this as a 7s lane. It does give back 1 right here, but that's not even so bad. It's a little bit specific. Well, I guess it would need an S. Not the K is not likely to play.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to see a bing. Oh, sham foo. So this
is that good?
Nope, absolutely not. So
okay, let's look at what Matt called it.
Matt in the chat absolutely called. He said, "I'm feeling a phony coming from Jackson here," and that is certainly a play that if Michael doesn't challenge it, and it looks like he's not.
He draws rivaled.
You can see rivaled on the rack now. Wow, that's insane. So what an idea there. So this is not a valid word. It doesn't look like it's going to get challenged. It scores 32 points, leaving DRV, which is obviously just so good here. There's just no other play that even comes close to that. And damn, I mean, now he's... So let me just get the scores updated.
And I mean,
so it's back to...
I mean, I hate to say that I called it, but I talked about the tactics, the little tricks that Jackson uses to get back in the game.
You did call it.
I mean, this is what you love to see. It's just it's so nice. I'm very happy. I'm smiling like a fool right now.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. So we're gonna see. Okay, now finally we're seeing these triples get used. This is a good play by Michael. I think it's by far his highest scoring play here, of Yeen getting that Y in the triple lane, scoring some points. And Jackson has rivaled on his rack. It doesn't play anywhere, but he is going to be able to hit this spot pretty hard.
It's just so good, yeah.
And there we go. That's probably a clinching draw by Michael here. He's drawn S blank here. So that's tough.
Yeah, it is difficult. Although... the rest of the rack isn't so powerful. I'm not sure.
He'll have bingos. Yeah, he'll have bingos. I guess the question is it somehow possible that after a bingo like Urania's by Michael, could Jackson somehow, some way, draw some gigantic play through the resulting letter? It's not impossible. It's not impossible.
I certainly think it's possible. I mean, prospectively his leave is going to be something like LAR. Given the bag, there's a lot of E's left in the bag. There's still a couple S's. There's a T. I think it's definitely I'm not counting out Jackson at this stage.
Yeah. Note that there are a lot of E's, right? So
Yeah,
normally you would consider maybe I should
just
leave
playing
the E
vid.
off. It's such a good bingo tile, but you're getting a lot more points. You're getting 9 more points for playing it, and
Yeah,
you have a huge likelihood of drawing at least one more from the bag. So make no mistake about it. That is the correct play by Jackson here. Nice recognition
yeah.
from him. And now it's time to see
Well,
what he draws. He drew Pearlier.
Pearlier. Yeah,
Does he have anything? Or well, he threw an E. He would have
there's
Pearlier.
right. I don't think an E's going to go down though.
Yeah, I don't think
Um,
there's a way. I mean, what can Michael even play here that would give Jackson even a phony bingo to try? I'm not sure what. Right? Like if he plays
if he plays
Saurian,
Saurian, yeah.
which he shouldn't
Uh,
because there's valid bingos that
oh
don't
my God,
float this
it's re-
S.
it's he has reprisal,
We
doesn't
would
he?
see reprisal, yes.
Wow.
That would be hilarious. That would just be insane if that went down here. It looks like he's going to play iguanas instead, which that definitely
I
that
still I
looks like
feel like
it'll get him to the finish line.
iguanas. I would rather play something like Uranias though, right? I feel like the
Yeah,
I
for
seems
sure.
trickier, right?
Definitely.
Um,
The I in the triple lane is significantly better in that position than the U, just for the
because you're
simple
hitting
reason
IER words, right?
IER. Yeah, you're just getting
Yeah.
the E's and the R's through this I if he plays iguana here. So no question that Urania's is very likely to be the best play. Potentially not bingoing at all would have some merit as well. I think you're going to win a lot of games here just by not bingoing and staying patient and eventually trying to get a bingo down somewhere really safe like this T, maybe this A
Yeah.
if you can do it. So there's certainly some merit to that, but I think if Michael sees Urania's, I would go ahead with that play in his shoes. Um, just
I
feeling
agree.
like things can still go wrong if you pass up bingoing here. If you play something for a low score and Jackson bingos and you draw poorly, all of a sudden you're down and you might be
Right.
in trouble if you don't bingo from Michael's POV. So definitely a risk, but yeah, we'll see. Still a good amount of time on both players' clocks. I do think of both of these players as being pretty fast. Also good end game
Certainly.
players, so they
Yeah.
don't need as much time as somebody like myself needs to play a good end game. I need a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
mean, it looks like Michael's maybe retracking his tracking at this point, which is totally reasonable to do with the amount of time he has. And he's going to play Anurias. Yeah, I'm not sure why he would play that over the anagram. I guess you're scoring 3 more points with the N, but like Matt is saying in the chat, putting the A in that spot definitely gives back more triple triples than putting the U. Um, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll see.
If you're gonna bingo, the main concern is making sure that you do not give up triple triples here. Because if you just look at the score, the updated score now, Michael's up by over 100. So
Right.
any run of the mill bingo, even just through the A, is almost certainly not going to do it. And we are going to see Spiraler. Wow. Jeez. So
That's
this is
very.
like another incredibly resourceful play. Remember the challenge rule in the WoW division: double challenge. So if Michael challenges and it is a word, he will
Yeah.
lose his turn. So he has to be absolutely sure. And there we go. Spiraler. It's
And I
not
really
valid,
think,
but
Will,
it looks
I
great.
don't think Michael can challenge unless he's positive that it's no good.
Yeah, I think he's
Just
let
because
it
of how,
stay.
yeah. And Jackson is finding ways to stay in. I still think this is pretty difficult. Michael's going to hit the triple or somewhere with the X pretty hard.
Yeah.
No E for exertion for that's kind of saves Jackson there, but
True.
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean hookles. It doesn't
Right.
not quite little hooks or something like that. So Jackson's,
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot say that Jackson hasn't done everything possible to fight his way back into this
certainly.
game.
Of course.
So, yeah.
mean, this is a gritty performance by Jackson.
Very, very much so.
Yeah.
And Spiraler, I mean, Cham Fu looks kind of crazy, but Jackson knows a lot of crazy words. Spiraler looks very word-like to me. That looks great as far as a plausible-looking word. There are much weirder words than that are valid. So,
and for what it's worth, I mean, even Cham Fu is kind of evoking Samfu, SAMFU, which is a valid word.
Yeah, chamfer as well. CHAMFER. Chamfer is also a word. So conflating those two, it definitely looks kind of word-like. Certainly. Yeah, what can you say? No question, if they're using the double challenge rule, which they are, these plays make a ton of sense. If you're using the 5-point challenge rule, Michael's challenging that stuff off immediately.
Oh, immediately. So
that's that just goes to show the difference that challenge rule makes. I love it personally. I wish that we use double challenge in high level play across the board. I think that the point challenge should be for newcomers to the game so that they can challenge words they've never seen before without feeling such a harsh penalty. But
Orchid Wave in the chat brings up the idea of hooklets, which, if Michael had played something like Toxine on the bottom left corner, Jackson would have been able to play something like that for, a triple. But, I think this
scares
maybe
this situation from Michael's POV scares me a lot, because now there are, hopefully it updates shortly. There we go. So this is the situation from Jackson's POV. There's 4 tiles in the bag. That's definitely enough tiles for Jackson to do something aggressive, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe
I'd like Jackson's chances.
If he plays something here, maybe he plays another phony. The Nostradamus of the chat, Matt Canick, says he might consider playing Cothoid here. God. Not a word. That would be his 3rd phony. But the beauty of it is, the problem with this is that it's going to empty the bag. So if Michael suspects that Jackson has a bingo in 2 spots and he can't win, he'll challenge it because he has no choice. So that's the problem. But even then, if Jackson plays something here, setting up his S hook here and maybe a second bingo, that's going to at least make a very difficult situation for Michael, especially because he has all 1-point tiles. He's not going to be able to score well. So if Jackson can just come up with something that scores decently, maybe, just maybe, he's got a shot at this.
Right. Yeah, and I think after Jackson, if he plays the idea of Cothoid, which I'd be surprised. I don't know if he's drawing into any bingos given the what's left in the bag. So Michael may still be incentivized to try to find a win in the end game in that instance, although it may just hit too hard. But yeah, I agree with what's going on in the chat. Plays like Koto and Keto up in that spot, giving yourself a hook for the S.
Yeah, I think it's more than just the S, though, right? Because Koto here, if you draw a play ending in SH, now you're really cooking. So that's the case point. After either Koto or Keto. You could potentially draw something like that. Obviously, you would need to draw this I and then very, very specific tiles. Other than that, maybe it's not even as possible as I think it is. But from Jackson's POV, he's got to at least be thinking I'm going to score. If I play in this spot here, I'm going to be scoring 25, leaving one tile in the bag. I still need to worry about outrunning Michael's high scoring plays. Like, I need a bingo that actually hits pretty hard. And an SH bingo would definitely do the trick there. Maybe you also draw something here that slots the the H somehow in the right spot. Doesn't feel likely either. But yeah, it looks like Jackson's considering Koto.
It's with a misstep or two from Michael down the stretch. I think. Oh, I'm not positive, but it seems possible that he may be able to outrun Michael even without bingoing, given that all of the hard-hitting tiles are still in the bag, and Michael's going to be stuck with 7 clunky, low-scoring tiles. I don't know if he's going to be able to. It's difficult. BLEM, right?
BLEM. This is the contents of the bag. So it's not clear if he plays Koto that he's even driving towards anything, but he can't know that. The bag could easily be much bingo friendlier than that.
Right.
So yeah, it's tough. I'm not 100% sure with those tiles in the bag. He might be kind of trying to avoid the B and M. Maybe the M is okay, but the B does not mesh well with anything on his rack. So,
well, speaking of mesh, I mean, that's a possible outplay that we could see from Jackson if Koto comes down, right? And that would hit significantly, pretty hard, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be enough to give him the win, but I think the spread in this game is going to end up being pretty close.
I agree. The score, Jackson is considering Keto, which I think Keto is potentially technically a smidge better than Koto, which is amazing recognition on his part. I think it's mostly that because of the 3 E's and 1 O in the bag, Jackson has a really good chance of redrawing an E here. So if he's able to do that, it might lead to him having slightly more bingos, which I think is actually true. That's not easy to come up with that. If it even is true, I'm not 100% sure if it is.
Right. And in the chat, Morris makes the point that playing Kins gives 25% win percentage with hollows in 2 spots if he redraws the L. But I do think to Jackson, that looks more like a 12.5% win percentage, right? Because there's no way for him to know what's in the bag. It's possible that he thinks a play like Keto is going to hit bingos more often than 1 out of 8. Yeah, it's interesting though. We'll see.
Yeah, we
that
know
would be
that.
Visionary. We do know that, but he may not.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really find fault with this idea of playing the K in this spot and leaving 1 tile in the bag.
Right.
It feels very natural and like the best chance that he has to try to luck into something up there. It puts Michael in a bind too, just because the board is pretty open. I mean, he's got this to deal with. He can't block both. He's going to have a tricky decision on his hands.
Right. It's very true with 1 left.
So,
and maybe
we'll
Jackson, figures he's in a lost position and just gives a shout out to his friend and plays Sokol. Although I'd be surprised by that.
I didn't even consider that one. That would be pretty epic, except also definitely not
losing.
The winningest. Definitely not the winningest option, but it would be a moving tribute to be sure.
Yeah, I'm interested in what championship player has to say.
Okay, Keto is the choice here. I will tell you, championship player has a really crazy play here. And that play, I don't know if I put any stock in it at all, is it wants to empty the bag. Oh, okay, there we go. You can see this is the play championship player wants, is to empty the bag. And wow, Jackson was so close.
Oh, to the,
He was so close to hollows. But yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, the thing about OK, the play that I just put up there, you keep an O to overlap the K on top. If you were to play your K here, maybe you actually fit something up there with really high scoring overlaps. I'm not sure I see it for that play, but
I agree.
yeah, close. I don't know if we're going to see, I don't think we're seeing a bingo, phony bingo here by Jackson in this situation.
This may be the one situation it doesn't work, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
Boy, he
yeah, I
really
mean,
did absolutely everything possible to try to win this
everything he
one.
could for sure, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, what do we see? Actually, I don't see a strong word ending in sh here for Jackson. Um, hooking kit. Excuse me. But we'll see what Michael can pull out.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely in a stone cold winning position. He just basically needs
Certainly.
to go out in two. I'm not sure if there's some kind of special play that he's going to be trying to block. Oh, there is one in the bag, so he has to so from his POV, he has to at least look at the tiles. I think the
Right.
nice thing is they're so clunky with the BHLLM that
Yeah.
maybe he's gonna get spooked and just think there's something I don't recognize in there, but there actually isn't. And this is a very good play on his part. Rotini
Agreed.
blocking the U if he's a little worried about that. It also blocks the sevens lane here, starting with a consonant or something like this. So this is a good blocking play for sure, scoring decently, and that should definitely clinch it for him.
Yeah, that's a strong play. And yeah, in crunch time, Michael's gotten it done. We'll see how Jackson is going to figure out a way to cut spread. Yeah, I guess Bosch looks quite good. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything else worth considering for Jackson. Unless he decides to try a phony bingo, but I'm dubious of that.
Yeah, I think at this point he knows any gambit of that type is going to get challenged for sure. So the time for that sort of thing is lost. Michael has a lot of incentive to challenge anything too crazy here. I guess maybe Jackson could try to play some kind of really heavy non-bingo and scare him into not challenging it. I don't know what that would be, but yeah.
Maybe front hook Chamfu. I don't know.
Oh, Chamfu and Blosh.
Yeah, exactly.
So the O hook.
That would hit pretty hard.
And, BLOSH. Both of those are not valid words, but that would be pretty epic.
It'd certainly make play Blosh, says Morris. Yeah. I do think that could be a stressful play to see come down for Michael. I think he's probably referring to putting the B on the triple letter score up there, scoring a few extra points, and maybe making Michael have a pretty tough decision on whether or not to challenge. But
Shelob suggested in the chat, that's the spider from Lord of the Rings, I think. The big scary spider.
Really?
Could put that down.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Somebody fact check me on that. I like that suggestion. All right, there we go.
Bosch. It's
pretty
best.
Reasonable play. I think that's got a high likelihood of being the best play. Scores 38. It gets Jackson temporarily kind of close on the scoreboard, but Michael is going to go out with his best end game play of Eam and Axone for 23. And
well
it looks
spotted.
like he's going to have, well spotted. Looks like he's going to have about 50. Looks like a 52-point win. And both players are going to end up at 2-1. So, wow, crazy.
We're going to go into tomorrow with a tight field.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to see whether anybody's even won all 3 of their games. It could be knotted up pretty tightly. I'm sure somebody's won all 3.
I'd be surprised, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, all right. So we've got 3 games in the books. I think we're probably going to talk to our players after that game, so don't go anywhere for that. But just as a procedural matter, we will be back tomorrow morning at 9:30 Eastern time. So nice early start. And I think we have either 7 or 8 games. I'm pretty sure it's 8. So it's going to be a nice long session. Emmett, I don't know if you're coming back for more stints or whether this is it for you, but either way,
this is
been
it for
a pleasure
me,
as always. Oh, well,
of course. Thank you, Will.
There will be more. So kudos to Emmett. Thank you very much for your ample insight. And just want to say this is the last opportunity of today to plug the Let's Play Scrabble team. An easy way to say thank you for this great live streaming coverage. All you have to do is click a couple buttons. Couldn't possibly be easier to click that like button and maybe even the subscribe button there too. Apparently we have 32 likes on the stream. Can we get to 50 likes? I'm going to spam liking this button, even though I already did. Unfortunately, when I click it, it unlikes it and then relikes it. So I don't know whether that helps at all. But really easy way to show support.
Yeah, I mean, what better video to have at the top of your liked videos playlist on YouTube? I mean, come on. Really, shout out to Let's Play Scrabble for putting together this event. Again, we'll talk to shout out to WGPO, the Word Game Players Association, who are the organizing body that cover this event, and who are hosting the prestigious Word Cup later this summer. So we can go to wordgameplayers.org for more information on them, to letsplayscrabble.org or .com for more information on them. Mm-hmm. And I think we're gonna cut to, as soon as the players are done discussing, we're gonna cut to an interview with the winning player, Michael Fagan.
Yes.
Hello.
There we go. We've got our winner. It's Michael. Congratulations, Michael, on a very exciting game between yourself and Jackson there. A lot of interesting decisions in this game. Not even sure where to start. So I guess why don't we go all the way back to the beginning of the game when you played WAP? That was a really nice overlapping play. Did you have what was your thinking on that move?
So I felt overlap was going to make me the most points. If I remember right, I kept O, T, blank, and something else. I think I could have played POW for 28, but I felt WAP keeping O instead of A is worth 5 extra points.
Yeah, for sure. We just wondered if at any point if you considered VOW and JOW, which would have set your A up for a VOW. But that's certainly a big point sacrifice from what you played. So really, really close plays. So we like the nice tight overlap on your part there. Any other positions, Emmett, that were on your mind to ask Michael?
I guess the one I found interesting was the Kintar decision. Obviously, there were a couple different positions that you could put that in. Can you just walk us through your decision-making process on one versus the other?
Yeah, so I could have played Kintar through the T in Keto and Twigs, but I felt like putting the Q where it did, it actually didn't really help block and the bingo line there, because it's kind of hard to get a word ending in a letter that goes before you. It's kind of tough to do that. And playing Kintar where I did kind of blocks, even helps block a bit the letters in Revolted and some letters in Readiest. And the only danger I see is if he has an S to go Kintars and the words go across. But I don't think that's going to score enough to really threaten my lead.
Yeah, as you put it that way, that seems pretty reasonable. You do also get the 2 extra points for it. So unless you have a really compelling reason to play through the T of Twigs, it does make a good deal of sense. So that was an interesting choice for sure. And then I guess, towards the end of the game, after you play Axon, where do you feel your winning chances are at that point? You go up by something like 60 plus points. Are you still worried that maybe Jackson can come up with something there?
Yeah, I mean, Jackson, he knows like all the words. So if there's a word, any word, even an obscure one, guarantee he's going to find it. Seemed close. Like, am I going to be able to outrun a possible bingo of his? And I liked how Axel will keep 4 in the bag, so if he bingos, he'll have 4 and less likely to be able to go out. I mean, I was kind of running out of time here, so I thought about playing tax on as well, tacking on the T. But then I thought with leaving 3 in the bag, if he bingos, have a better chance of going out. But then, like, the 3 extra points could be the difference. Not sure about that one. I mean, I was a bit questionable about that. What did you think was best there?
Oh, I thought it was really a tough situation. So certainly, what you were saying is absolutely spot on. If he bingos immediately, you're going to be in really good shape with him having 4 tiles. I do worry a little bit by if you leave more tiles in the bag, you give him more flexibility to make a setup that could be potentially damaging somewhere. So you have that give and take between playing shorter or trying to play longer somewhere. There really weren't any great longer plays than that, as you pointed out. Taxon, potentially, maybe Axion in the same spot as Axon. I don't think there was anything significantly better than that. It was a tough situation for sure. And I guess lastly, Emmett, do you have another question for Michael?
Just also on that turn, there was a lot of discussion about something like either Exon or Oxen over top of Anuria's, just kind of cutting down on his bingo opportunities altogether, with the exception of the play down from the A. Did you disregard that, or did you think that the spot from the A was too damaging?
I don't know, I just automatically looked at the A and the triple, and I didn't even see Oxen, to be honest. But I mean, time was getting low. I have to budget my time.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course.
But you came away with that win, so well done. That was a lot of fun to watch, and good luck in your games tomorrow, Michael.
Thanks. Would you like to speak to Jackson?
I'm not sure. I think I guess it depends on Jackson if he is still there wanting to
speak to us.
Oh, so all right. It sounds like we are going to talk to Jackson briefly if he's there.
Okay.
Cool. All right, there you have it. That's Michael Fagan, our 2022 champion. And okay, we got Jackson on the headset. Jackson, that was a pretty valiant effort on your part. I think you left it all out there to try to recover this game.
Certainly.
Emmett,
that's what I'd say,
with Jackson.
I mean, wow. I guess we can talk about the first turn. This was an interesting position with Mojo versus Joy. Can you walk us through your decision-making process and how you landed on Joy?
Yeah, no, it's pretty rare to have a first turn that's that interesting in that way. Yeah. I really liked Mojo for a lot of reasons. I felt like FIY can improve a lot, even though it's a bit of a clunky leave. There's a lot of potential there. And there's something a lot more satisfying about Mojo than Joy. FIMO is really clunky together. But the reason I like Joy in the end is just because I'm keeping the O and the M. So kind of I'm guaranteed to have some flexibility after Joy. Whereas after Mojo, I'm not really keeping any specific tiles that work well for that. And the S hook is a bit bigger. So even though it wasn't like the nicest feeling play, I felt like there was just more firepower on my rack after Joy.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That was a tricky one that we thought you got correct. I mean, the Odium turn, that seemed pretty clear. I did wonder if you in this particular matchup between you and Michael, I thought maybe there was a chance that you would consider just FOU alongside Joy just to really make an extremely hard board for an S. The problem with that is you're giving up the foul and 4 hooks, which make it not nearly ironclad. But other than that, Odium looks great. I'm just wondering if there was ever a fleeting moment where you considered FOU just because it's so devastating to an S hook.
No, there was no point where I considered FOU. I don't even particularly want a tight board against Michael. Okay. As we saw, there's some advantages to having more options open. Like I can phony a bit more easily. And so for that reason, I really wasn't trying to make any kind of board against him. I was considering Fuji more, just because that makes the position harder generally. Obviously, it makes an S pretty valuable, but it just makes a really clunky position for him. I was considering Fuji more, and I keep the M for the my hook, so I really liked that. But the problem was that the S, he's more likely to have an S than me, and I didn't like how S hooky it made the board.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. If you do draw an M bingo, it's pretty much always playing after Fuji, but I really do like Odium there. It's not even that easy. There are certain times where you'll catch him totally off guard and maybe he can't even play to the triple after that, which kind of happened, right? He didn't have a play that reached the triple, so it worked out pretty well until your draws kind of fell apart there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess obviously we really wanted to make it clear to the viewers after Revolted. I'm sure that you were thinking, is it worth playing Aid for 18 points, leaving 4 vowels? And that I really think that's as close to a coin flip as it gets. Obviously, we see the Z waiting on Michael's rack, but from your POV, were you like coin flipping that internally a little bit?
Yeah, I did the sim in my head, and it was kind of a deadlock in the sim, and it really felt like a coin flip. And the reason I opted towards exchanging in the end was because of Zhao. I felt like the S was a really important tile to reach for, and I felt like by playing Aid, I'm just putting myself at a disadvantage in that regard. That was the reasoning in the end that just kind of made me a bit more willing to just part with the rack and go for the S's. But, it was really close, and I think there's a lot of Aid could easily be better. I was really unsure.
Well, it truly is as close to a coin flip as it gets. Then, of course, in class, it was predicted. We had Matt Canick in the chat saying, literally, I feel a Jackson phony coming right now. And that is when Cham Fu hit the board. Obviously, this looks a little bit like Sam Fu, looks a little bit like Chamfer. Is that what you were thinking?
Chamfron. Yeah, it's like, it's the child of Sam Fu and Chamfron. The question with those is like, you kind of want your opponent to know those words in the first place. And my worry was that he might not know Chamfron or Chamfer. Which makes Chamfu look less like a word. But at that point, like, obviously after a Cine, I didn't like any of my options. I was gonna fish for Fichu. That was the plan. But once you blocked Fichu, I'm like, all right, my lifeline is dead. I'm just going for Chamfu because also there's the S hook upside. So
So pre-Assini, so just to show the viewers, you're talking about before Assini hit the board, you could fish for FICHU into the U of Nuttiest, right? That's what you're describing. Yeah. That's great.
Not that I had,
it's hard.
I didn't have any great fishes for that, but it was at least an option.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, last question, I guess, would be going back to that last move of Keto. That is really one of the few moves we saw that gives you any kind of chance to both score and set up. You get an SH bingo up there. Maybe somehow, did you see any actual concrete sequences that would have given you a win there, or was it just kind of a play this and pray?
Yeah, I mean, so I didn't play it through completely because I wasn't sure to what extent he might be able to block. Like, he has stuff like Rotini, which was a great block by Michael, and it's hard to tell exactly which racks he'll be able to have such a good block. I was kind of hoping that he wouldn't have a great block for both lanes. I was spending most of my time deliberating between Keto and Koto, so I was just trying to iterate through all of the possible draws and seeing which ones would hit more. And while iterating, I felt like Koto actually hit slightly more draws raw, but after Axon, I was thinking that an E was more likely than not in the bag. I figured Oxen could have been missed as the overlap, but even if it's missed, I felt like if he has 2 E's, he's probably playing Axon. So I just had a feeling I was leaning towards an E draw, and I felt like Keto actually hit better if I'm drawing the E. So that's why I played that in the end. But most of the time was just spent deliberating between the two and permuting because I had a strong feeling it was going to make one of those plays. I didn't like my other options.
That's tremendous. That's great. Yeah. That's next level with just the reasoning out Axon and realizing that he's very unlikely to have the 2 E's. And I think the computer engine definitely prefers your choice So by the
good.
slimmest margin.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much stock to put in that, but it certainly backs up your intuition. So anyway, we'll let you go, Jackson. That was a pretty great effort for us to enjoy.
Yeah.
Sorry about the
Thank
outcome,
you.
but
Oh,
obviously
it's
you
all
got
good.
2 long days of Scrabble. I'm sure we'll see you on stream again.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the commentary.
Thanks,
So
Jackson.
there you have it. Wow. That was pretty impressive thinking, really, by both players,
Super
but certainly
impressive.
Jackson is known for coming up with win chance. I certainly did not. I would not have played Chamfu. I would not have played Spiraler. Probably, maybe, I don't know. But
Yeah, it's
he
impressive.
really, that he made that even close is incredibly impressive. But kudos also to Michael Fagan for coming away with the win there. And that's going to do it for us, Emmett. That's been a fun 3
Yeah,
games. So
it's been
yeah, any
good. Yeah,
final
I mean,
thoughts?
I think um, no, it's been great. I think we should check over at the standings real quick to see where things are at after day one or night one. And then after that, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go soak in the Scrabble after this. Okay,
Nice. There you have it.
so
Look at
Seth,
that.
wow,
So we know
Seth
Jackson
Lipkin.
lost, but did Zach win? And if not, we do not have any undefeated players after 3 rounds. That's
Wow,
very rare, Emmett.
very rare. I'm interested to see what happened in the tie. Um, I wonder if that was this round or an earlier round. But yeah, let's. Why don't we check at the Collins division too?
Sure.
See how Adam.
Lost another game. We saw Adam sort of really put the screws to him in game 1, but Adams dropped a game as well. So it looks like Quinn James and relative newcomer Neil Gann
Neil Dan.
working his
Yeah,
way up the ratings in a hurry. He's won his first 3 games here. Great start for him. I wonder if we'll
yeah.
be seeing some of him tomorrow.
Neil is for those who frequent cross tables like I do. Neil is high on the list of biggest climbers in rating over the past year, so he's obviously an ascendant player. Yeah, so I'm excited to see what he has to offer over the rest of this tournament.
Yeah, that'll be fun to see. So everything is still a little bit too close to call. The standings always a little premature, but then again, we've got just a 15 game tournament here, so every game gets a little added importance. So there you go. That's our standings. That's going to do it for us today. Again, we'll be back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time for day 2 at the Montreal Scrabblefest 2024, brought to you by Let's Play Scrabble and Word Game Players organization. So thanks everybody for watching. Hope to see you tomorrow bright and early.